Chapter 254. Bufong did not know what to say when faced with the outrageous request of the arrogant young man in front of him. There was actually someone who wanted to buy Xiao Bai. This was simply unique. Bufong turned his head and sized up the chubby Xiao Bai. This guy did not have any unique highlights from start to finish, and he was especially fat, yet someone actually took a fancy to him. There were so many rich people entering and leaving Fong Fong's little store in the Imperial City, yet none of them wanted to buy Xiao Bai. The young man in front of him was actually so amazing. Xiao Bai, did you hear that? So there are still people who appreciate you in this world, Bufong said seriously as he patted Xiao Bai's chubby belly. Xiao Bai's mechanical eyes flashed with a red light. He raised his fan-like palm and touched his round head with a dumbfounded expression. How about it? Name a price. The corner of the young man's mouth curled up as he looked at Bufong with a smile. The children and servants who were following behind the young man were also looking at Bufong with ridicule. What did the Xiao family in the southern city have the most? Money. As one of the tycoons in the southern city, even though their influence was not deeply rooted, they had earned a lot of money in the past few years by relying on Xiao Meng's name. After all, Xiao Meng came from the Xiao family in the southern city, which was quite a gimmick. No, you can't afford to raise him. Bufong seemed to have thought of something, and a regretful expression appeared on his face. He shook his head and calmly looked at the young man. This young master can't afford to raise him? What a joke. 1,000 gold coins, and this lump of metal is mine. The young man coldly smiled and treated it as if Bufong was bragging. It's just a lump of metal puppet. Does it want to fly and eat crystals? 1,000 gold coins. The corner of Bufong's mouth twitched, and he suddenly looked at the young man as if he was looking at an idiot. The leftovers that Xiao Bai usually collected from his practice would cost more than 1,000 gold coins. Is he treating me as a beggar? 1,000 gold coins. Hee hee. Bufong sneered expressionlessly. Xiao Bai's mechanical eyes flickered. It glanced at Bufong, then at the young man. You country bumpkin, don't ask for an exorbitant price. It's his honor that this young master has taken a liking to this puppet. The young man was furious. 1,000 gold coins to buy a broken lump of iron, and you still think it's too little? Were the standards of the country bumpkins nowadays so high? Bufong furrowed his brows and pouted. Then, he gently exhaled and said, Stop fooling around. You really can't afford it. Stop messing around your sister. The youngster's eyes narrowed. With a flick of his hand, a large bag of gold coins fell to the ground. With a crashing sound, the bag's pocket loosened, and a few gold coins jumped out. Here are 2,000 gold coins. Is that enough? My mother said that one shouldn't be too greedy, the youth said. Bufong lightly sighed. He stretched out his hand and patted the youngster's head. Stop fooling around. If you want to buy this guy, you can't use gold coins. The youngster widened his eyes. He watched as Bufong patted his head with his palm. His entire person was stunned. When did they become so close? Then, something happened that made him even more dumbfounded. He saw the youth in front of him rub his finger, and a shiny crystal appeared in his hand. Bufong solemnly said, If you want to buy it, you have to use this. Yuan crystal. You really dare to open your mouth. How could this lump of iron puppet be mentioned in the same breath as Yuan crystal? What are you talking about? The youngster wanted to angrily interrogate Bufong. However, just as he opened his mouth, Bufong tossed the crystal toward Xiao Bai. The crystal spun 360 degrees in the air. Then, with a clang, it fell into the open stomach of the lump of iron. Creak! Xiao Bai's stomach closed up. The sound of a crystal being crushed rang out, causing the youngster and the surrounding people to have goosebumps all over their bodies. This lump of iron really ate crystals? That's why I said you can't afford it. Those who know me know that I'm the worst at bragging. Bufong patted Xiao Bai's chubby stomach and said in a serious manner. Then, he led Xiao Bai away from the crowd and continued walking forward. After walking far away, the youngster came back to his senses and his eyes lit up. Who exactly is this person? A puppet that can eat crystals? How magical. He can even take out crystals. He's definitely not a country bumpkin. Could it be that big uncle hired a puppet master from somewhere? Young master, you. This person is Miss Yinyu's friend. He was arranged to stay in a room far away. A servant who knew what happened bowed and said, "Nonsense. Is that broken room a place for people to stay? Since he's Sister Yinyu's friend, how can he stay in that kind of place? Which idiot arranged it? Hurry up and change this young master into a good guest room." Xiaoyu was immediately displeased. His face drooped as he scolded the servant. The servant's face stiffened as he received the order and left. Xiaoyu's eyes sparkled as he picked up the bag of gold coins on the ground and then followed after Buffon. "Senior, we can discuss the price. 10 crystals? How about 20? The Xiao family's loft was a rather old house. It had been in the Xiao mansion for quite a few years and had existed since the Xiao family moved into the southern city. Over the years, following the development of the Xiao family's ancestors in the southern city, many houses were renovated. However, only this loft was preserved. Xiao Yinyu pushed open the old door of the loft and carefully stepped inside. There was some sandalwood incense burning in the loft. The pleasant smell of sandalwood permeated the loft, calming one's mind. After walking a few steps along the loft, there was a small house. When the door of the small house was pushed open, a rich fragrance of tea wafted out, refreshing the mind. "Grandpa," Xiao Yinyu slightly bowed and said. An old man was sitting cross-legged in the house. His face was full of wrinkles. He looked at Xiao Yinyu with a benevolent expression and chuckled. "Little girl, you're here. Sit down and have a cup of tea. This is the Flowing Sun tea that I asked my second brother to buy from Jiangning County. It tastes pretty good." The old man skillfully flipped a teacup in front of Xiao Yinyu. Then he held the teapot and lifted it up high. Light yellow, fragrant tea flowed out from the spout of the teapot and filled the cup. Xiao Yinyu took off her veil and thanked the old man. Then she lifted the teacup and took a sip. The rich taste of tea with a hint of bitterness spread in her mouth. Just as the bitterness was about to disappear, it turned into a hint of sweetness. Spirit energy gushed out, making Xiao Yinyu feel as if her entire body was bathed in sunlight. "Ha! There are very few youngsters nowadays who like to drink tea. I heard from your father that you're pretty good at brewing tea. If you have time, you can brew a cup for this old bag of bones." The old man chuckled. The Flowing Sun tea from Jiangning County was famous throughout the entire Light Wind Empire. Of course, its price was also well known. "Grandpa, you must be joking. If you want a drink, Yinyu can brew tea for you anytime." Xiao Yinyu smiled indifferently. The old man stroked his beard and laughed. He chatted with Xiao Yinyu for a while longer before gradually moving on to the main topic. "Little girl, do you know why Grandpa called you back from the Imperial City?" The old man let out a long sigh. After taking a sip of tea, he slowly asked. Xiao Yinyu did not answer and quietly waited for the old man to continue. "If neither you nor Xiao Long came back, the Xiao family of the southern city would be in danger," the old man said. Xiao Yinyu's pupils suddenly constricted, and her expression suddenly became cold. She frowned and asked in confusion, "What do you mean?" The old man gave Xiao Yinyu a deep look and then took out a black jade bottle from his bosom. "This is an elixir that your second uncle purchased from a group of mysterious people a month ago." Xiao Yinyu took the jade bottle and poured out an unassuming black elixir. A pungent smell suddenly rushed into her nose, and she could not help but frown. "What is this smell? I don't know what this elixir is called." "It was purchased by your second uncle. Its effect is to increase one's true energy level. Your second uncle's cultivation level stepped into the 6th grade after consuming this elixir," the old man said with an expressionless face. Xiao Yinyu raised her eyebrows. 6th grade Battle Emperor. Shouldn't this be something to congratulate? Could it be that there was something wrong with this elixir? That's right. It's just as you thought. There's something wrong with this elixir, and it's a very big problem. A trace of bitterness appeared on the old man's face. "Even though your second uncle's cultivation level has broken through to the 6th grade, every time he practices at night, he will feel a stabbing pain all over his body, and his skin will show signs of rotting." Xiao Yinyu sucked in a breath of cold air and immediately threw the elixir back into the bottle. Rotting skin was something unimaginable for a girl. Hee hee, such a thing didn't happen when we tested the elixir back then. That's why the Xiao family put this elixir on the shelves, and the problem naturally appeared. However, that group of mysterious people appeared again and gave him another elixir. As long as one consumes this elixir, the symptoms will disappear. Xiao Yinyu narrowed her eyes. She could already feel a strong sense of conspiracy. The old man took a deep breath and said, "They didn't ask for much. They just want you, or Xiaolong, to come to the southern city. But don't worry, they only want you to come to the southern city and won't harm you. If they want to harm you, I'll be the first to object." Xiao Yinyu was very calm, a calmness that exceeded the old man's expectations. "Grandpa, do you know the identity of that group of people?" Xiao Yinyu asked. They wanted her to come to the southern city, but they wouldn't harm her. However, a mysterious 7th-grade spirit beast had suddenly appeared outside the southern city. Who exactly were those people? What was their objective? The old man wanted to say something, but hesitated. In the end, he said, "I'm only guessing. Their objective is to restrain your father. It seems to be related to King Yu." "King Yu? Impossible. If the forces helping King Yu were able to control that terrifying 7th-grade spirit beast outside the southern city, then they wouldn't even need to do this. Even her father might not have the confidence to deal with that kind of spirit beast. I can only say so much. If I don't call you over, your second uncle's skin will rot and he will die. Our Xiao family's business will also be completely ruined because of this elixir." "This is intolerable," the old man helplessly said. Xiao Yinyu did not say anything. She left the loft and was lost in thought. As she walked into Xiao family's garden, her gaze became slightly vacant. To be able to summon a 7th-grade spirit beast just to restrain her father. What exactly was the objective of that force? Suddenly, Xiao Yinyu was startled. She looked into the distance, and her eyes froze. "Owner Bu, what are you doing?" She saw Bu Fong carrying a youth with one hand as he expressionlessly walked into Xiao family's garden. Behind him was the chubby Xiao Bai. Chapter 255. Bu Fong's palm was strong and powerful. He grabbed the collar of that youth and lifted him up. That youth's face was a little red from holding his breath. "Senior, I can tell that you are not an ordinary person. This puppet can actually eat crystals." "Senior, one look and I can tell that you're definitely not an ordinary person. This puppet can actually eat crystals. It's definitely a great tool for acting cool. Sell it to me for 50 crystals, okay? This is already the entire savings of this young master over 10 years. With this puppet, I can definitely make Sha Sha laugh." Xiao Yu was being carried by Bu Fong, but he was constantly baring his fangs and brandishing his claws, his mouth constantly muttering. "Who is Sha Sha?" Bu Fong asked. "The daughter of the southern city's city lord. She is very beautiful. She is my childhood sweetheart, Bu Fong was expressionless and directly ignored the youth's words. "What do you mean by a great tool for acting cool? Are you buying Xiao Bai just to pick up girls? Can you see the essence through the appearance? This Xiao Bai is clearly a great tool for acting cool. Okay? You want to buy Xiao Bai with a mere 50 crystals, the price of a plate of sweet and sour ribs? Do you know how many plates of sweet and sour ribs Xiao Bai eats in a day?" "Xiao Yu, what nonsense are you talking about?" Xiao Yinyu did not know whether to laugh or cry. Why did these two clowns bump into each other? Furthermore, what did Xiao Yu just say? He wanted to buy Xiao Bai behind Owner Bu for 50 crystals. "My little brother, you really have the guts to open your mouth." "Oh, just nice, you know him. This brat is really annoying." Bu Fong put Xiao Yu down. That brat instantly turned 180 degrees and was about to pounce on Bu Fong. However, Bu Fong reached out his hand in time to stop his head. "How many times have I told you? You can't afford to raise Xiao Bai. Give it up, you will find a better choice." Bu Fong said seriously. Xiao Bai's mechanical eyes flickered as he rubbed his round head. "Stop fooling around, Xiao Yu. Owner Bu is right. You really can't afford to raise it." Xiao Yinyu pulled Xiao Yu's sleeve and said to him. Bu Fong was speaking the truth. "Sister Yinyu, why didn't you speak up for me? You should be helping me convince the seniors. Is there something fishy going on between the two of you?" Xiao Yu said with dissatisfaction. His eyes suspiciously sized up Xiao Yinyu and Bu Fong. Xiao Yinyu glared at him and her cheeks turned red. She raised her hand and knocked on Xiao Yu's head. What nonsense are you spouting? If you say it again, I'll ask second sister-in-law to punish you with a mace. Xiao Yu's face stiffened, and he shut his mouth, not saying another word. Honorbu, why are you here? Did little Yi fail to entertain you? I was just about to look for you. Xiao Yinyu's expression softened a little as she smiled at Bufang. Bufang's expression was indifferent. Poor hospitality? Well, it was very poor. Sister, your maidservant actually brought Senior to the lowest guest room. What kind of attitude is that? I've already ordered people to change Senior's room. Also, Senior said he wanted to find you, so I brought him here. Xiao Yu said softly. Xiao Yinyu was taken aback. She frowned. This little ya, forget it. Didn't you say that we can eat the authentic pan-fried pork bun at the Xiao mansion? Bring me there, Bufang said. Xiao Yinyu pursed her lips. Just as she was about to speak, Xiao Yu, who was at the side, had already started shouting loudly. What? Senior, you're here to eat the pan-fried pork bun? That won't do. My mother has already washed her hands of the business. Bang! Xiao Yinyu bluntly knocked on Xiao Yu's head. Wash my ass. Shut up. Don't speak unless I ask you to. Xiao Yinyu was furious. What do you mean, washed her hands of the business? This brat's mouth was full of nonsense. Then Miss Lin is his mother? Bufang looked at Xiao Yu in astonishment. Yes, Xiao Yu is my second uncle's youngest son. He's a little mischievous, which made Honorable laugh, Xiao Yinyu said apologetically. He's not mischievous. He's just a little silly and annoying. Bufang waved his hand and said seriously. Xiao Yu's face immediately stiffened. He looked at Bufang with grief and indignation. He only wanted to buy Xiao to pick up girls and act cool. How did he become silly? I didn't expect you to be such a senior. With Xiao Yinyu leading the way, the three of them walked straight ahead. Xiao Yu's mother, who was also known as the Bun Beauty, had not made the pan-fried pork bun for a long time because she had married Xiao Yu's father. She would only occasionally make a plate during the spring festival. Therefore, it was very difficult for ordinary people to taste her culinary skills. My mother's attitude is very firm. If she says she won't make it, she won't make it. Rumor has it that a big boss from the imperial city wanted to buy it with crystals, but my mother refused to make it, Xiao Yu said complacently. Xiao Yinyu glared at him, then helplessly smiled at Bufang, indicating that Xiao Yu's words were true. Bufang immediately frowned. The spring festival had just passed, so wouldn't it mean that he would not have the chance to eat the pan-fried pork bun? What a pity. However, it was precisely because of this that Bufang became even more curious about the pan-fried pork bun. Senior, why don't you sell Xiao Bai to me, and I'll try to convince my mother? Xiao Yu asked probingly with his eyes wide open. However, Bufang merely glanced at him indifferently. I've already said that you can't afford it, and you can't afford to raise it. Xiao Yu's face darkened. Honorbu, I'll bring you to see Second Aunt. As for whether or not I can convince Second Aunt to make the pan-fried pork bun, that will depend on fate, Xiao Yinyu said. Bufang nodded. That was the only thing he could do now. As the three of them walked, they strolled around the exquisite garden. Bufang felt a little dizzy from strolling around. Wouldn't these people get lost living in such a big house? Not long after, they arrived in front of a large courtyard after taking a long detour. Xiao Yu was the first to push open the courtyard's door and softly shouted, Mother, I'm back. A rustling sound came from the courtyard, and a charming figure walked out from the house in the courtyard. This was a mature and beautiful woman, quiet and elegant. She had a voluptuous figure, a pretty face, and a smile that could make one's heart warm was constantly hanging on the corner of her mouth. Little Yu, you're back? Your father just returned to the house. Come in. Yinyu is here too. This is? The noblewoman looked at Bufang with a puzzled expression and asked Xiao Yinyu with a smile. Xiao Yinyu hurriedly introduced Bufang's identity to the noblewoman, but she did not introduce him in detail. Since you're Yinyu's friend, then come and have a seat in the house. The noblewoman elegantly smiled and leisurely walked into the house. Xiao Yu drooped his head. His father was also in the house, so he could not jump up. As soon as Bufang entered the house, A faint sandalwood fragrance lingered around, and a rich tea fragrance filled the air. The house was very spacious, and directly opposite it was a living room. There were a few wooden chairs and a wooden table. A middle-aged man was sitting in the living room, drinking tea and looking at Bu Fong, who walked in. This was a handsome man. Even though he was middle-aged, he still had some heroic spirit, and a domineering aura gradually appeared between his brows. He was somewhat similar to Xiao Meng. This person was the second master of the Xiao family, Xiao Qiyun. Bu Fong glanced at this person, and his eyes slightly narrowed. This person's aura was very strong, but this was only on the surface. Under this kind of strength, there was also a sense of weakness. Moreover, there was a jet-black aura that flashed across this person's face from time to time, as if it was constantly devouring this person's life force. This person was a little strange. You are. While Bu Fong was sizing up Xiao Qiyun was also observing Bu Fong. With this glance, his heart skipped a beat because he actually felt a hidden and powerful aura from this young man. His heart shuddered, and he immediately opened his mouth to ask. This owner Bu is a friend of Misty Rain's from the Imperial City. We happened to bump into each other in the southern city, so Misty Rain invited him back to have a seat. Lin Qinair explained with a smile. Oh, I came to the Xiao Mansion mainly because of your pan-fried pork bun, so I would like to invite you to make a plate of pan-fried pork bun. Bu Fong slightly cupped his hands at Lin Qinair and said, Second uncle, Owner Bu traveled thousands of miles from the Imperial City to the southern city just to taste second aunt's cooking. Could you? Xiao Yanyu also looked at Xiao Qiyun and said with a smile. However, before she could finish her sentence, she was directly interrupted by Xiao Qiyun, whose face had turned cold. No, Qinair no longer makes pan-fried pork bun. Please leave. Xiao Keqing's face darkened. With a wave of his hand, he unceremoniously asked his guest to leave. Xiao Yinyu's face immediately stiffened, and she helplessly looked at Bu Fong beside her. Lin Qinair also smiled apologetically at Bu Fong, indicating that she would not make a move. Mother, Senior must have had a hard time coming all the way from the Imperial City. Why don't you make a plate? It's been a long time since I tasted Mother's cooking. Xiao Yu also spoke up on behalf of his mother. Step down. Children should not interrupt when adults are talking. Xiao Keqing swept a glance at Xiao Yu and lightly said. Xiao Yu's expression immediately stiffened, and he once again drooped his head. Fine, you're an adult, you're awesome. Owner Bu, right? My apologies, my beloved wife has not made pan-fried pork bun for a long time because of her weak body. I'm really sorry, but please leave. There are many delicacies in the southern city, not just pan-fried pork bun. You could try other delicacies. Xiao Keqing said, once again asking his guest to leave. Bu Fong frowned, but he did not insist. Since he did not want to make it, then so be it. Therefore, Bu Fong stood up and planned to walk out. As soon as he reached the entrance, the entire southern city was once again filled with the melodious roars of beasts. Outside the city walls, a loud crash resounded. Chapter 256. Under the setting sun, a gigantic demonic fish, whose entire body was emitting a dazzling radiance, ruthlessly rammed against the city gate. The steel city gate emitted a creaking sound, as if it was unable to bear the heavy burden, as if it was about to collapse. Everyone in the city was once again frightened out of their wits. The citizens had all returned to their houses, their hearts palpitating with fear. Once the steel city gate was broken by the demonic fish, the entire southern city would fall into a true crisis. Buzz of strange fluctuation surged forth. Beneath every city gate of the southern city, a cryptic radiance flickered. Then, pillars of light surged forth, forming a light barrier that enveloped the entire southern city. This was the southern city's Great City Barrier Array. It would not be activated unless it was absolutely necessary. This was because the resources required to activate this array were too large. With this Great City Barrier Array in place, the demonic fish rammed against the gate a few times but was unable to shake it. It once again gave up, and its gigantic body dived into the Dragon River, swimming slowly. The night descended amidst such an oppressive atmosphere. Within the southern city, specks of light flickered one after another, illuminating the night. The citizens who were worried finally heaved a sigh of relief, and their hearts calmed down quite a bit. Within the Shao mansion, Bufang bade farewell to Shao Qiyun and his wife and returned to the wing room that Shao Yu had prepared for him. The environment of this wing room was much better than the guest room from before. At least, Bufang felt that staying in this wing room was not bad. Bufang first sat on the bed and pondered for a while. If he could not eat the pan-fried pork bun, then there was no point in staying in the Shao mansion. Therefore, he decided to leave tomorrow and continue to search for delicacies in the southern city. If there really was none, then it was about time for him to return. Of course, these were all matters that he should worry about tomorrow. Bufang yawned. Unlike other cultivators, he did not use cultivation to replace sleep. Instead, he laid on the bed and fell into a deep sleep. Shao Bai quietly stood in the room, its mechanical eyes constantly flickering. Bufang spent the night in the southern city in this manner. Light Wind Imperial City, early morning. Xiao Xiaolong arrived at Fong Fong's little store early in the morning. Entering the kitchen, Yu Fu had already begun to prepare the ingredients needed for her knife and carving practice. Yu Fu looked at the drowsy Xiao Xiaolong and immediately smiled. She pointed at Xiao Xiaolong's stove, indicating that she had already prepared all the ingredients he needed. Senior sister, you are really a woman who knows how to run a household. Xiao Xiaolong yawned with sleepy eyes. He giggled and praised Yu Fu. The two of them had become more familiar with each other by now. Occasionally, they would crack some jokes. Then, both of them went to their respective stoves and began to practice their cutting and carving skills with their kitchen knives. The aroma of meat wafted through the kitchen. Xiao Xiaolong looked at the plate of sweet and sour ribs in front of him with satisfaction. Bufang had taught him for a long time, and he had finally learned how to cook sweet and sour ribs. According to Bufang's instructions, Xiao Xiaolong carried the sweet and sour ribs out of the store. At the entrance, the big black dog was still snoring on the ground. Bufang told Xiao Xiaolong to remember to make a plate of sweet and sour ribs for the big black dog every morning. Placing the plate of sweet and sour ribs in front of Blackie, Xiao Xiaolong looked at it expectantly. He wanted to see the black dog finish the entire plate. Blackie, who was sleeping soundly, twitched its nose and opened its eyes. When it saw the plate of sweet and sour ribs in front of it, its eyes immediately lit up. Then, under Xiao Xiaolong's excited gaze, it picked up the porcelain plate and began to eat. However, before Xiao Xiaolong could get too excited, the big black dog first stood up and its body stiffened. The big black dog glanced at Xiao Xiaolong and spat out a piece of sweet and sour ribs in front of Xiao Xiaolong. The big black dog snorted and continued to lie on the ground, snorting and snorting. It completely ignored Xiao Xiaolong, who was standing in a distance, completely stunned. Xiao Xiaolong wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He was once again despised by the black dog. Owner Boo Boo was away, so the business of the store depended on Xiao Xiaolong and Yu Fu. The two opened the door and waited for the customers to arrive. They were about to start a busy day. Although their culinary skills had not reached the level of Bufang, under Bufang's special training, the taste of the dishes was enough to satisfy many customers. After Bufang left the Shao mansion and bid farewell to Shao Yinyu, he stayed in the southern city for 2 days. He tasted most of the delicacies in the city. Some of the delicacies tasted good, but some were unworthy of their reputation. During these 2 days, the people in the southern city were in a state of panic because the giant fish outside the city did not leave. From time to time, it would still collide with the southern city's great array. The radiance of the great array began to dim, as if it could not withstand the attacks. The city lord of the southern city summoned the family heads of the major forces and magnates to the city lord's mansion to discuss how to deal with the fish. However, they still could not come up with a solution to this problem. As Bufang walked on the streets of the southern city, he raised his head and looked at the gradually clearing sky outside the southern city. This meant that the southern city's Great City Protection Array was about to disappear. Once the Great City Protection Array disappeared, The impact of the monstrous fish on the city gates would definitely reach a terrifying level. It was hard to say whether or not the city gates would be able to withstand it. On the streets, the city guards were constantly patrolling, trying to control the emotions of the citizens. After the discussion of the major families in the southern city, the result was that each family would send out a 6th grade expert to deal with the monster fish. There were no 7th grade battle saints in the southern city, but there were quite a few 6th grade battle emperors. Every major family could gather a 6th grade battle emperor, but this was already their limit. On top of the city wall, 10 6th grade battle emperors, including Changshan, stood tall. The spring rain fluttered, dyeing the sky a little gray. As the 6th grade battle emperor sent out by the Shao family, Shao Qiyun's expression was extremely grave. He solemnly stood on top of the city wall and looked down at the enormous burst dragon demonic fish. The fish opened its mouth and let out a piercing shriek, causing one's eardrums to tremble slightly. Outside the southern city, in the 10 Miles Pavilion, 5 figures wearing light muslin bamboo hats watched the numerous experts of the southern city who were about to stake everything on this one attack. They all let out hoarse laughter. Their laughter was filled with ridicule and disdain. Are they ready to risk their lives? The southern city is about to become chaotic. A hoarse voice rang out. Then, a black figure suddenly separated from the group of 5. It was as if it had transformed into a black line, speeding toward the Dragon River at an extremely fast speed. On top of the city wall, Shao Qiyun and many other experts noticed this figure. The aura of this person was only a 6th grade battle emperor, but it gave them an uneasy feeling. Who was that person? What's he trying to do by rushing toward the Dragon River? On top of the southern city, a 6th grade battle emperor asked with a puzzled frown. Shao Qiyun's pupils shrank. Boundless killing intent burst forth, and his mind was filled with shock. It was him. It was this person who sold him the poisonous elixir, causing his Shao family to be in a somewhat passive position. Under everyone's gaze, the black figure arrived at the edge of the Dragon River and quickly stopped. Then, with a turn of his hand, a black jade bottle appeared in his hand. From the jade bottle, a dark red elixir pill was poured out. That person crushed it, turning it into powder that covered his hand. That black figure raised his head. His face was hidden by the black bamboo hat, but Shao Qiyun and the others could feel that this person seemed to be sneering at them. Splash! The powder was scattered. A gust of violent wind gushed out from that person's body, and the dark red powder was scattered into the water of the Dragon River. Enjoy the last carnival. Southern City, get restless. The black figure laughed heartily. Then, his figure abruptly shot out, rushing toward the distance. Not long after, his figure disappeared. Everyone on top of the city wall had a bad premonition. Looking at the gradually boiling water of the Dragon River, their pupils shrank. Bang! The monstrous waves surged, and the water of the Dragon River seemed to turn into a huge wave. It ruthlessly slammed onto the city gate. The city gate swayed, and the water seeped in through the cracks. A sharp and berserk bestial roar resounded. Within the huge wave, 2 scarlet eyes appeared. Then, the huge burst dragon demonic fish ruthlessly slammed onto the great city barrier array. The great array finally could not withstand it, and shattered, turning into specks and dots. Bang! Another heart-palpitating sound rang out. The steel city gate was finally unable to bear the heavy burden after being hit by the burst dragon demonic fish. The bricks and stones on the city wall were all shattered, and a loud bang resounded. Crushed stones flew everywhere, and the city gate was directly smashed open. The surging river flowed out from the broken city gate, rolling in. The crashing sound of water was deafening, resounding endlessly. On the street, all the citizens screamed and began to flee in panic. The city gate was broken. The southern city was finished. Evil creature, die! The 10 6th grade battle emperors on top of the city gate could not bear it any longer. One after another, they roared and attacked one after another. They leaped down from the city wall, grasped their weapons, and charged toward the berserk burst dragon demonic fish. The river surged over, as if it was about to swallow Bufong, who was standing on the street. Bufang's expression was indifferent. The tip of his foot lightly tapped the ground, and a huge force erupted. His whole body directly soared into the sky and landed on the black-tiled roof. Xiao Bai's mechanical eyes flickered, following Bufang's movements. The two of them stood on the roof, watching the street being submerged by the surging river. An obscure light flashed in Bufang's eyes as he was submerged. Roar! A loud sound came from the city gate. Bufang subconsciously raised his head to look and discovered that a huge, malevolent, burst dragon demonic fish was actually planning to squeeze through the city gate. However, its huge body was too big, and it was actually stuck in the city gate. The huge body of the burst dragon demonic fish was constantly swaying left and right, causing the entire city wall to tremble. Numerous cracks also appeared on the city wall. It seemed like it wouldn't be long before this berserk burst dragon demonic fish completely squeezed into the city, wreaking havoc on the bustling southern city and causing the southern city to sink into complete chaos. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The experts of the southern city were all holding onto their weapons, releasing true energy and constantly bombarding the berserk strange fish. The stuck strange fish was their only chance to attack at this moment. Xiao Qiyun's eyes were also red. The southern city was the foothold of his Xiao family. Once the southern city was destroyed, his Xiao family would also sink into panic. Therefore, in this battle, he had to give it his all. Sizzle. Just as Xiao Qiyun activated his true energy, he blasted out a few moves. True energy surged all over his body, but his complexion became more and more unsightly. The pitch-black energy was like a small snake scuttling around his face. His whole body was emitting intense pain. Chapter 257. In the churning sea between the Mahayana Island and the mainland, a large ship was slowly sailing. Waves rose and violently smashed against both sides of the ship, causing huge waves to fly and crashing noises to resound without end. In the sky, there were eagles spreading their wings and soaring into the sky. The clear cries of the eagles echoed throughout the desolate world. King Yu, we will reach the mainland in another day. When that time comes, we can meet up with our companions in the mainland. They have already begun to move. The chaos in the light wind empire has already begun. Zhao Rouge, who was dressed in a white robe, stood at the bow of the large ship. He allowed the biting cold wind to blow at him and ruffle his hair. Ji Qingyu's gaze was like lightning as he gazed at the distant narrow coastline that was gradually becoming blurry. His heart was calm. In the end, he still had to return there to fight for what was rightfully his. Suddenly, King Yu's gaze focused as he gazed into the distance. Zhao Rouge's originally nonchalant gaze also slightly narrowed. He walked to Ji Qingyu's side and gazed into the distance. The sea mist there dissipated and a blurry figure appeared. A small boat drifted on the vast sea and slowly swayed in the direction of their large ship. A person in a small boat appeared rather lonely. Ji Qingyu and Zhao Rouge both narrowed their eyes as they tried to discern the identity of that person. That person seemed to have also seen the large ship. A terrifying aura suddenly burst forth from his body, and the small boat beneath his feet suddenly accelerated. Monstrous waves gushed out from his back, and a huge propulsion force propelled the small boat forward at a rapid speed. Seventh grade battle saint? Ji Qingyu's expression slightly changed as he solemnly said, "That's right. He should be coming for you, King Yu. Could it be that eunuch Lien who said he would capture you?" Zhao Rouge said as the corners of his mouth curled up. Under their gazes, the speed of the small boat became faster and faster. The figure was also getting closer and closer. They gradually got a clearer view of the figure standing on the small boat. Lien Fu was wearing a brocade robe and a crown on his head. His face was fair and clean, and his head of white hair was constantly fluttering under the violent sea breeze. "King Yu, I've finally found you." Looking at the large ship and Ji Qingyu standing at the bow, Lien Fu's eyes suddenly emitted a bright light. The water had submerged half of the southern city. The enormous burst dragon demonic fish was struggling violently at the city gate, and the rumbling sounds resounded incessantly. The city wall seemed as though it was about to break apart. Cracks continuously appeared on it, as though it was about to collapse in the next moment. The 10 combat emperor powerhouses seemed very small in front of the demonic fish. They held their weapons, and true chi burst forth. They quickly scuttled in front of the demonic fish. The weapons in their hands were emitting true chi, and they constantly blasted out powerful martial skills. The might of these martial skills was not ordinary. It brought a lot of pain to the stuck demonic fish, but it did not cause any substantial damage. Moreover, this demonic fish became more and more violent under these attacks. Those densely packed teeth opened, and a fishy stench wafted over. Xiao Qiyun endured the pain in his body and blasted out a move, smashing into the walls of the demonic fish's mouth, causing it to suffer considerable damage. However, the black energy on his body became denser and denser, and it constantly darted out. It made him feel as though ants were biting his entire body, and the pain was unbearable. The other combat emperor powerhouses attacked with all their might. They had to stop this demonic fish from rushing into the southern city. At this moment, there was no time for them to think too much. They had to go all out, or else the southern city would be turned into a mess by this beast. Brother Xiao, are you all right? A combat emperor powerhouse who had a good relationship with Xiao Qiyun seemed to have sensed Xiao Qiyun's abnormality and immediately roared out in doubt. Xiao Qiyun waved his hand, indicating that he was fine. He could still endure it. Bufang quietly stood on the roof, watching the battle in the distance. He slightly furrowed his brows. He saw Xiao Qiyun, but the latter's condition did not seem to be very good. In the distance, many people from the Xiao mansion had also rushed over. However, because of the flood, everyone stood far away. Bufang, who was standing on the roof, was more conspicuous. Xiao Yinyu immediately spotted him. Swoosh, swoosh. Xiao Yinyu and Xiao Yu landed on the side of Bufang's roof. The space on the roof was relatively large, so it did not seem crowded. Your father's condition doesn't seem to be too good. Bufang shot a glance at Xiao Yu and lightly said. Xiao Yu was a little puzzled. He felt that he was fine. When he saw how valiantly his father was fighting against the demonic fish, he felt a surge of hot blood almost rushing to the heavens. Bufang curled his lips. This Xiao Yu's cultivation was only at 3rd grade battle maniac, so it was still somewhat difficult for him to detect Xiao Qiyun's abnormality. When Xiao Yinyu heard Bufang's words, her complexion changed. She naturally knew why Xiao Qiyun was behaving strangely, because the Xiao family's old man had told her about it. Second uncle's symptoms wouldn't break out at this time, right? That's not too good. Xiao Yinyu muttered. Bufang did not say anything and continued to watch the battle in the distance. The 10 battle emperors bombarded the demonic fish, and finally, there were some results. A large wound was smashed open on the demonic fish, and fresh blood gushed out from the wound, flowing all over the ground. As the roar resounded, the demonic fish became even more irritable. The appearance of the wound, coupled with the stimulation of the blood, caused the demonic fish to go berserk. All the scales on its body stood up, and its aura suddenly changed. It actually broke free from the shackles of the city gate and rushed into the city along with the flying boulders. The appearance of this demonic fish was actually somewhat different from a normal fish. On its abdomen, there were actually 2 sinister claws tightly grabbing onto the ground. With a sweep of its huge fish tail, it brought along a wave of fishy wind. Boom! Several battle emperors were directly sent flying. The demonic fish's eyes narrowed, and the scales on its body seemed to fall off. With a whistling sound, it rapidly cut through the air. Its speed was so fast that it was difficult for people to defend against it. Swoosh! A piece of scale, rotating at a high speed, brought along a frightening cutting force, whistled through the air. Xiao Qiyun clenched his teeth, and the true energy in his body burst forth. He wanted to dodge, but in the next moment, his pupils shrank. The pitch-black energy on his face exploded, and the skin on his arm began to corrode. Xiao Qiyun, whose body was frozen on the spot, had no way to dodge, and could only use his weapon to block the attack of the scale. The weapon was directly smashed into pieces, and the huge force sent Xiao Qiyun flying. In the air, he spat out a large mouthful of blood, and his aura became extremely weak. The faces of the Xiao family, who were watching the battle, instantly turned pale. The gentle Lin Qin'er's body swayed, and fortunately, she was supported by the servants beside her, so she did not fall. Xiao Keqing looked at this scene, and his eyes slightly narrowed. "Father!" Xiao Yu's originally excited expression suddenly froze, and he shouted in fear. Everyone was caught unprepared by this sudden turn of events. Xiao Qiyun, who was lying on the ground, was constantly surging with black energy, almost covering his entire body. The skin on his arm began to rot, emitting waves of a fishy stench. Xiao Qiyun had no choice but to endure his injuries and use the true energy in his body to suppress the rampaging black energy. Otherwise, he was afraid that in the next moment, he would be completely corroded by the black energy. Brother Xiao quickly dodged. An angry roar. Xiao Qiyun froze for a moment, then subconsciously lifted his head, and his eyes were obscured by a huge pitch-black shadow. The demonic fish raised its giant claw, blocking the space above his head. The air seemed to solidify at this moment. A trace of fear emerged in Xiao Qiyun's eyes. If this claw were to slap down, he would definitely be smashed in a meat paste, and he would be deader than dead. Seeing this scene, Lin Qin'er's heart tightened. The faces of the Xiao family members were also pale, and they were on the verge of collapsing. Honorable anxiety also appeared on Xiao Yinyu's beautiful face. She hurriedly turned around and said to Bufang, even though she did not know how high Honorbu's cultivation level was, if the puppet Xiao Bai were to make a move, it would definitely be able to stop the demonic fish. Bufang frowned. He did not know if he could stop this strange fish even if he made a move. Before he set off, the system had stipulated that if he did not encounter any danger or was attacked, Xiao Bai would not make a move. Therefore, if he wanted Xiao Bai to make a move to save him, this possibility could basically be eliminated. However, it was impossible for Bufang to remain indifferent as he watched Xiao Qiyun be smashed in a meat paste by the strange fish's claw. Letting out a light sigh, the true energy under Bufang's feet suddenly burst forth, and his figure rapidly dashed out under Xiao Yinyu's dumbfounded gaze. Xiao Yinyu's expression suddenly changed. "Owner Bu, what are you doing? Let Xiao Bai make a move. How could you possibly stop that demonic fish?" She never expected that Bufang would personally make a move. Why didn't he let Xiao Bai make a move? With Xiao Bai's battle prowess, dealing with this strange fish was not a problem at all. Looking at Xiao Bai, who was still standing beside her with his mechanical eyes slightly flickering, Xiao Yinyu's face was instantly filled with confusion. Not only her, but Xiao Yu and the rest of the Xiao family also had their mouths slightly agape, revealing an expression of disbelief. Xiao Keqing's face revealed even more disdain. That demonic fish was a 7th-grade spirit beast. Who did that brat think he was? Chapter 258. Xiao Keqing was the 3rd son of the Xiao family. His status in the Xiao family was not highly regarded because the Xiao family had Xiao Meng and Xiao Qiyun. His status had long been suppressed by the brilliance of the two. His business talent was not as good as Xiao Qiyun's, and his cultivation level was not as good as Xiao Meng's. It could be said that he had always been in an awkward position in the Xiao family, but at the same time, he was a very ambitious person. Seeing that the demonic fish's gigantic devil claw was about to smash Xiao Qiyun into minced meat, he did not feel the slightest sorrow of the imminent death of a loved one. Instead, there was a boundless excitement that covered his body like flowing water. If Xiao Qiyun dies, the successor of the Xiao family in the southern city will be me. Xiao Keqing's eyes were filled with excitement. He did not care about Bufang, who was rushing out. He was only a youth about the same age as Xiao Yinyu. How could he block a 7th-grade demonic fish's claw? Who did he think he was? Even when Xiao Meng was Xiao Yinyu's age, He was only a 5th grade battle king. That was why he revealed a mocking expression. He mocked Bufong for overestimating himself, mocked Bufong for seeking his own death. Xiao Yinyu's heart trembled. She hoped that Honorbu would make a move, but she did not want anything to happen to Honorbu. She never thought that Bufong would personally rush out. Did he not know how terrifying that demonic fish was? Honorbu was not Xiao Bai. Bufong's figure was extremely fast. The true energy under his feet exploded, shattering the tiles on the roof. His entire body seemed to have transformed into a black line, instantly piercing through the air. His expression was incomparably grave as he dashed out. The air seemed to have become somewhat oppressive at this moment. Green smoke curled up from Bufong's hand. Then, his pupils shrank, and he took a deep breath. Xiao Qian finally could not bear it anymore. He let out a miserable howl. The skin on his body was rapidly rotting, emitting a thick stench. This stench made Bufong, who was gradually approaching, knit his brows. He felt that it was somewhat familiar. Boom! With a loud bang, the ground shook violently, and the river water surged violently. Everyone felt their minds turn sluggish. Their gazes abruptly shifted towards the spot where Xiao Qiyun had been. At this moment, that spot had already been covered by a gigantic claw covered with sparkling scales. Xiao Yinyu's complexion turned deathly pale. In the end, she still couldn't block it. Xiao Yu's entire person was paralyzed on the ground, without the slightest trace of blood on his face. His father. Could it be that he was really smashed into minced meat by this huge beast? Among the Xiao family members below, apart from Xiao Qicheng, who had a vague look of excitement on his face, the others were filled with sorrow. Lin Qinair clutched her chest, her lips turned pale, and her eyes rolled back as she fainted. Weak and frail, she could not bear the painful scene of her husband being smashed into minced meat in front of her. Roar! The huge scarlet eyeballs of the burst dragon demonic fish rolled and landed on the claw it used to slap an ant to death. Doubt emerged in its eyes. Suddenly, an intense pain surged out with a fluctuation that made its heart palpitate. This pain made it unable to resist letting out an angry roar. A ray of resplendent golden light suddenly burst forth from under its claw. Beams of light emerged one after another, like a blooming lotus flower. Rip! This sound was very crisp, and it reached everyone's ears. Everyone's heart trembled. Their pupils slightly shrank, and their mouths were slightly agape. They looked towards the distance in disbelief. That burst dragon demonic fish let out a miserable howl. Its claw was actually directly shattered. Violent winds whistled and blew past. The sky was filled with scarlet blood that scattered down like a huge rainstorm. A figure carrying a large golden kitchen knife stood proudly on the ground. The velvet rope that was used to tie his hair fell apart, and his hair flew in all directions in a messy manner. Bufong was expressionless. Both of his hands held the handle of the golden dragon knife. The kitchen knife that was emitting a golden radiance flickered with a dense brilliance. The misty light sprinkled down, enveloping his figure. The blood gushed down, but it was all blocked. Bufong's entire body was clean. In the midst of the bloody rainstorm, he was like a proud green lotus, indifferent and elegant. Xiao Qiyun's miserable howl still did not stop. The bloody rain dripped down, drenching his entire body, causing him to completely transform into a bloody man. The dense blood actually washed away the fishy stench emitted from Xiao Qiyun's body. However, at this moment, everyone's focus was not on Xiao Qiyun's body, but on the young man carrying the kitchen knife who was completely untainted by the bloody rain. One slash cut off the burst dragon demonic fish's claw. That beast defense is so terrifying, but it was like a piece of paper. It couldn't even block one slash. Simply terrifying. Some Battle Emperor experts' mouths began to tremble. Their pupils constricted, and they were filled with shock. They were very clear on how hard the burst dragon demonic fish's defense was. After all, they had gathered the attacks of 10 Battle Emperor experts, and only managed to make a hole in that beast's head. However, this young man's kitchen knife had chopped off the burst dragon demonic fish's claw. Gulp! All of the Battle Emperor experts felt their bodies tremble, and their blood began to boil. The Battle Emperor expert who had a better relationship with Xiao Qiyun sped away, landed beside Xiao Qiyun, who was still howling miserably, and pulled him away. This young man was definitely an expert. He was afraid that the aftermath of the battle between this young man and the beast would accidentally injure the currently incomparably weak Xiao Qiyun. The battle that was about to take place would definitely be a difficult and exciting battle. Sister Yinyu, Senior is fine. Senior is alive, and so is my father. Xiao Yu's eyes, which were originally filled with despair, suddenly blossomed with limitless brilliance. He jumped up from the roof, pointed to the distance, and loudly shouted in excitement. Xiao Yinyu was also dumbfounded. Looking over, she saw an unforgettable scene. Amidst the bloody rain that filled the sky, Owner Bu carried a kitchen knife and stood upright with an indifferent expression. No matter how terrifying the monstrous burst dragon demonic fish was, there was not a trace of fear. Handsome. Senior is simply too handsome. Too cool. Xiao Yu was so excited that he danced with joy and could not sit still at all. Everyone from the Xiao family was also dumbfounded. Then, one after another, they sucked in a breath of cold air and revealed joyful smiles. Xiao Qiyun was saved. He was fine. Xiao Keqing's face was as ugly as if he was constipated. His mouth was trembling, and he did not know what to say. Perhaps whatever he said at this moment would be useless. Just a moment ago, he was still mocking Bu Fong for overestimating his own capabilities. In the next moment, Bu Fong easily chopped off the burst dragon demonic fish's claws and ruthlessly slapped his face. Fortunately, not many people noticed his mocking expression just now, or else he would be even more embarrassed. Damn that guy, meddling in other people's business. Xiao Keqing's heart was filled with anger, and he clenched his fists. Xiao Qiyun was not dead, and his position in the Xiao family was still the same. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The Battle Emperor experts all retreated and landed in the distance. They excitedly looked at the scene, and they were looking forward to the battle that was about to take place. However, in the next moment, something that made them even more dumbfounded happened. The burst dragon demonic fish that had its claws chopped off retreated a step, and its mouth that was full of sharp teeth roared at Bu Fong. Bu Fong narrowed his eyes. He held the golden dragon bone kitchen knife with one hand and swept it out directly toward the burst dragon demonic fish. The roar of the burst dragon demonic fish was immediately stuck. Its eyeballs rolled around nonstop, and within the berserk expression, there was a trace of fear. The energy vortex within Bu Fong's dantian revolved, and true energy surged out violently, pouring into the golden dragon bone kitchen knife. The radiance on the kitchen knife became even more intense, and the pressure that pervaded the air became even more terrifying. Bang! Under the pressure of this frightening kitchen knife, the burst dragon demonic fish seemed to have recovered a little from its madness. It actually began to retreat unceasingly, and its huge fish tail swayed back and forth. Its eyes were filled with fear. Dragon's might. That was dragon's might. Although the dragon race's bloodline within the burst dragon demonic fish's body was extremely thin, it still existed. Moreover, along with the growth of Bu Fong's cultivation, the golden dragon bone kitchen knife suppression on spirit beasts became even more terrifying. Being able to grow to the 7th grade, this burst dragon demonic fish was not a foolish fish. Previously, it was affected by a peculiar power, and it fell into a berserk state. At this moment, under the dragon's might, it was as if it had drilled into an extremely low ice sea, and it became clear-headed. Outside the southern city, the faces of the 5 black figures under the veils were filled with disbelief. Who was that person? Why did he make a 7th grade spirit beast retreat? Damn it, let this beast go berserk for me. What's there to hide for? A black figure with a hoarse voice cursed. A pitch-black bow appeared in his hand. He bent his waist and pulled the bow to its fullest. The 2 black figures beside him took out a black jade bottle poured out a few pills, and placed them on the arrowhead. Then, with an insolent smile, that black figure released the fully drawn bow. A buzzing sound rang out, as if it was tearing through the air. A black arrow whizzed past, directly penetrating the back of the burst dragon demonic fish that was retreating. Roar! Under the dragon's might of the golden dragon bone kitchen knife, the burst dragon demonic fish's eyes actually turned red once again, and it let out a roar that resounded throughout the southern city. Chapter 259. The waves churned, bringing along a salty sea breeze. On a lone boat, Lien Fu clasped his hands behind his back, his messy white hair fluttering in the wind. His gaze fell on Ji Qingyu, who was on the large boat. Chief Eunuch Lien, long time no see. How have you been? The two stared at each other for a while before Ji Qingyu finally spoke. His calm voice reverberated between heaven and earth. Lien Fu pursed his lips, tilted his head, and looked at Ji Qingyu. His sharp and slightly hoarse voice rang out. Qingyu, oh Qingyu, you did something wrong. The previous emperor sentenced you to guard the imperial mausoleum and spared your life because you're the previous emperor's flesh and blood. You should have guarded the imperial mausoleum and fulfilled your filial duties. Why did you leave the imperial mausoleum? You're making things difficult for me. Behind the small boat, monstrous waves were still surging up, churning and surging, pushing the boat faster and faster. Then, the small boat that Lien Fu was standing on came to a stop in an instant, sealing my cultivation base and stripping me of my imperial status. What a good father. I also want to fulfill my filial duties, but I don't want to sweep the imperial mausoleum like a stray dog. Ji Qingyu's eyes were like lightning as he stared straight at Lien Fu. He took a step forward and placed one foot on the eaves of the boat as he sneered. His eyes were filled with a fanaticism. I, Ji Qingyu, am stronger than Ji Qingxue in both ability and cultivation base. I should be the one to inherit the throne. Why did it have to be that useless third brother? How am I inferior to him? I refuse to accept this. If father wanted me to accept this, he should have completely crippled me. But he didn't, Ji Qingyu said. Lien Fu sighed. He had always known that Ji Qingyu had been suppressing a ball of fire in his heart. Even during the most difficult times, when he was exiled to the imperial mausoleum to sweep the tombs, Lien Fu could still sense the unwillingness in Ji Qingyu's heart. But you disobeyed the previous emperor's orders, so I had no choice but to bring you back. Lien Fu's sharp voice was slightly hoarse. I know. Chief Eunuch Lien's goal is to bring me back to the imperial mausoleum and let me obediently face that cold tombstone. But I don't want that. So what should I do? Ji Qingyu crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked down at Lien Fu. His eyes carried a hint of playfulness and passion. Lien Fu's eyes narrowed. He raised his hand and pinched his thumb and middle finger. Then I'll have to beat you until you can't move, and then carry you back. The deafening roar resounded throughout the southern city, causing those combat emperors who were still immersed in the power of Bu Fong to regain their senses. Damn it, this beast is going berserk again. A battle emperor Ranker's mind trembled as he roared in fear. Every time this beast went berserk, it would launch endless attacks on the southern city's gate. This was something that they could not understand. But at this moment, this beast actually went berserk again. Bu Fong's eyes narrowed as he looked towards the distance of the southern city. Those battle emperors might not have noticed anything because they were stunned by his technique, but Bu Fong had been paying attention to the huge fat fish. Oh, the devil fish. Therefore, he was very clear about what had happened just now. That black arrow that tore through the sky shot into the back of the devil fish, causing it to go berserk. Someone is behind all this. Bu Fong narrowed his eyes as the corners of his mouth curled up. He was wondering why such a big fat fish would appear in the Dragon River in the South City for no reason at all. The berserk devilfish's fear of the dragon bone kitchen knife had decreased a lot. Its mouth that was full of sharp teeth roared, bringing along a gust of fishy wind. Its scarlet eyes stared at Bu Fong, who was holding the kitchen knife that was emitting a golden brilliance. A ruthless expression emerged on its face. Boom, boom. The huge claw that was broken in half slammed on the ground. This devilfish actually dashed towards Bu Fong at lightning speed. Many of the battle emperors felt their hearts tremble as they felt a terrifying sense of oppression. Bu Fong's face was calm as he looked at the huge devilfish. He did not panic at all. The devilfish that was dashing towards him as if it wanted to bite him into pieces was reflected in his eyes. It constantly enlarged in his pupils. Then, Bu Fong's figure suddenly disappeared from his original position. With a nimble leap, he landed on top of the fish's head. A seventh-grade spirit beast had an extremely terrifying pressure. This pressure had a natural suppressive effect on sixth-grade battle emperors and sixth-grade spirit beasts. However, Bu Fong was not affected by this pressure at all. He could still move freely. On the contrary, this devilfish was suppressed by his dragon's might. Therefore, under such circumstances, even though Bu Fong's cultivation was not at the 7th grade, he was still not afraid of this burst dragon demonic fish. Bu Fong's figure somersaulted in the air. The golden dragon bone kitchen knife in his hand directly slashed down. The golden dragon bone kitchen knife was a semi-divine tool. It was incomparably sharp. The scales of the burst dragon demonic fish could not provide any defense at all. It was directly cut into pieces by Bu Fong. The golden dragon bone kitchen knife penetrated into the devilfish's flesh. Fresh blood splashed high up into the air. The devilfish violently shook its body, and the scales on its body opened up. What a fat fish! The meat of a 7th-grade spirit beast shouldn't disappoint me. The corner of Bu Fong's mouth curled up as he muttered. Then, he let out a long breath. His gaze slightly focused as he held the knife hilt. He actually dashed on the back of the fish. Bu Fong's face was expressionless as he dashed at high speed. The sleeves of his white robe fluttered, and his hair fluttered. Rip! A crashing sound rang out. Following Bu Fong's mad dash, fresh blood continuously splashed out from a wound. The devilfish miserably howled and became even more violent. It twisted its body even more violently. Bu Fong suddenly jumped up. Both of his hands held the golden dragon bone kitchen knife hilt and ruthlessly slashed down. Poochie! Blood splashed out, sparkling under the illumination of the sun. Countless scales splashed out. The scales on the devilfish's body were like fish scales that were peeled off. With a crashing sound, they fell all over the ground. The hearts of many battle emperors trembled. Damn, too terrifying. Huh, Senior is too cool. Kill this bastard. Peel off its skin and pull out its tendons. Xiao Yu cheered on the roof as he continuously jumped up and down. Xiao Yinyu, on the other hand, was shocked as she looked at Onerbu, who was making a 7th-grade spirit beast in such a sorry state. It turned out that Onerbu was actually this strong. She had always thought that Onerbu, who was protected by Xiao Bai and the big black dog, was only a chef with weak combat abilities. However, she did not expect that after leaving Xiao Bai, Onerbu would also be so ferocious. Onerbu's method of handling the fish was still so skillful. Even the way he scraped off the scales was so unique. Xiao Yinyu's red lips slightly curled up, revealing a charming smile on her face. At this moment, everyone from the Xiao family sucked in a breath of cold air. This young man was too terrifying. He actually scraped off the scales of such a terrifying spirit beast. Was he king cooking? Xiao Kaching's legs trembled and his mouth trembled incessantly. This kid could actually fight against a 7th-grade spirit beast. At this moment, Xiao Yinyu's maid, Xiaoya, even had the heart to cry. She clearly remembered that in the Xiao mansion, she had arranged a guest room that even a lowly person would not be willing to stay in. She was actually blind enough to offend such a terrifying existence. If he wanted to deal with her, that kitchen knife could strip her naked in minutes. Xiaoya, who was frightened to the point of panicking, suddenly sat on the ground and started crying. As Bu Fong landed on the ground, his true energy surged and his figure sped forward at lightning speed. The dragon bone kitchen knife actually sank deep into the belly of the fish. Then he scurried away at lightning speed and cut open the tender white belly of the fish. There were basically no fish scales on the fish's belly, so it was even easier for Bu Fong to cut it. Fresh blood poured down like a waterfall, flowing all over the ground. The burst dragon demonic fish suddenly could not support its body and fell to the ground. The violence in its eyes once again disappeared, and what emerged was boundless fear. It felt an aura of death. Oh, scared? Bu Fong's body was not stained with the slightest bit of blood. He took a step forward, and the huge dragon bone kitchen knife spun in his hand as he indifferently muttered. In the next moment, a resplendent golden light blossomed. It was so bright that it almost blinded people's eyes. The golden light suddenly fell like a falling meteor, chopping the head of the burst dragon demonic fish with a loud bang. The burst dragon demonic fish was dumbfounded. Its body was unable to move. Not only the burst dragon demonic fish, the others were also dumbfounded. They did not even dare to breathe loudly. They did not know whether the burst dragon demonic fish was dead or not. It should be dead, right? Rumble. The sound of a heavy object hitting the ground resounded. The huge fish's head fell off from the fish's body with a loud bang and rolled on the ground. It rolled for 2 rounds and blood splattered everywhere. Dead. Senior is mighty. Handsome. Xiao Yu's throat was about to turn hoarse from all the shouting. At this moment, his admiration for Bu Fong was like the fish's blood that was unceasingly gushing out from the fish's body. Bu Fong sat on the ground. The true energy on his body suddenly dispersed as he violently gasped for breath. The glow of the dragon bone kitchen knife dimmed and disappeared. Then, it returned to its simple and unadorned pitch-black appearance. The true energy of a 6th-grade battle emperor had actually been completely consumed in this battle. As expected, it was still somewhat taxing to deal with a spirit beast that was not afraid of the dragon bone kitchen knife alone. In the end, it was still because his cultivation was too weak and his true energy was insufficient. In his heart, Bu Fong still felt a sense of urgency to increase his cultivation level. Xiao Yinyu's heart, that had been in a state of anxiety, also suddenly relaxed. Owner Bu actually did it. It turned out that Owner Bu was also this powerful. This simply refreshed her understanding of Owner Bu. She discovered another secret of Owner Bu that no one knew. The first secret was that Owner Bu actually went to a brothel. The second secret was that Owner Bu actually turned out to be this powerful. Xiao Yinyu recalled the embarrassed appearance of Owner Bu when he walked out of the brothel and was discovered by her. Xiao Yinyu suddenly wanted to laugh. Sometimes, Owner Bu was also quite adorable. Suddenly, Xiao Yinyu's mind trembled. Puzzled, she turned her head around and saw that Xiao Bai, who had been quietly standing beside her, suddenly had his aura change. Xiao Bai. Xiao Yinyu's pupils constricted as she abruptly looked toward Bu Fong's direction. At a place where no one noticed, 5 pitch-black figures were actually speeding over. Without a doubt, the target of those 5 figures was Owner Bu, or rather, the extremely weak Owner Bu. Xiao Bai's mechanical eyes flickered and changed from red to purple. Then he stomped down with all his might, causing the entire roof of the house to collapse. Sensing killing intent toward the host, Purple Eye mode activated. Chapter 260. Boom. The entire black-tiled roof collapsed in an instant. The aura on Xiao Bai's body suddenly changed. The eerie purple color flickered with a terrifying splendor that made one's entire body numb. Xiao Yinyu's body slightly lost balance. Due to the collapse of the roof, she could not stand steadily. Therefore, she pulled Xiao Yu's body and sped away, landing on another roof. Her eyes, however, were solemnly looking at the back of Xiao Bai, who was speeding away. Damn, Senior's puppet, why does it feel different? Xiao Yu sluggishly looked at the back of Xiao Bai, who was speeding away, with an incredulous expression on his face. Xiao Yinyu shot him a glance and indifferently said, "You will soon know why Owner Bu said you could not afford to raise Xiao Bai." She, who had personally witnessed how terrifying Xiao Bai was extremely clear in her heart. Back then, She was even injured by the aftershock of Xiao Bai's attack. Even though Xiao Bai's chubby appearance was extremely cute, once he started fighting, he could even knock down an 8th-grade war god. Two streaks of purple splendor seemed as if they were going to cut through the horizon. With a piercing sound, it was as if a sonic boom was created in the air. Bufang sat on the ground weakly, gasping for breath. The true energy within his body was already nearly exhausted, and he felt somewhat helpless. The energy vortex in his dantian rotated with difficulty, trying hard to squeeze out true energy to nourish his dried-up meridians. Without the support of true energy, the dragon bone kitchen knife once again turned into green smoke and returned to the mark on his wrist. Looking at the corpse of the giant burst dragon demonic fish beside him, the corners of Bufang's mouth suddenly curled up. In the distance, 5 figures wrapped in black robes and wearing black conical bamboo hats sped over. Their speed was extremely fast, and the aura and cultivation level on each of their bodies were very strong. All of them had reached the level of 6th-grade Battle Emperor. To the southern city, this combination was simply terrifying. With a burst dragon demonic fish killed, the mission of causing chaos in the southern city has failed. If we return like this, we will be punished by the High Priestess. We must capture this young man who disrupted our plans, regardless of whether he is dead or alive, and give a clear explanation to the High Priestess. A hoarse voice rang out, followed by a chorus of assent. The 5 figures were like 5 pitch-black longswords, piercing through the void and targeting Bufang. Murderous intent surged from their bodies. With regards to Bufang, who had appeared out of nowhere, their killing intent surged. Even after using their final berserk elixir, the 7th-grade demonic fish was still slaughtered by this youth. With regard to the person who ruined their plans, they naturally did not have any good expressions. Kill him while he's weak. Boom! The leader drew his pitch-black bow to the fullest, and the pitch-black arrow emitted waves of true energy circulating on the longbow. He loosened his grip, and the long arrow whistled out. The others also took out their weapons and charged forward. The experts in the southern city finally reacted, but it was too late. The pitch-black arrow with terrifying fluctuations was about to hit Bufang, who was extremely weak at this moment. The huge force and terrifying waves contained in the arrow were enough to blow up Bufang. Damn it! Who are you people? The eyes of the experts in the southern city were filled with rage as they bellowed. However, the 5 people did not pay any attention to the experts in the southern city. Their target was still Bufang. Bufang raised his eyebrows. He was slightly astonished. This group of people should be the ones controlling the burst dragon demonic fish from behind the scenes. Could it be that they couldn't sit still because of the burst dragon demonic fish's death? Bufang lightly exhaled, and the corners of his mouth slightly curled up. But 2 rays of purple light descended from the sky, instantly blocking in front of Bufang. The speeding black arrow directly hit the purple figure, triggering a huge explosion. Smoke and dust billowed, bringing with it a whistling gale. Bufang stood up from the ground, and his hair fluttered in the wind. His gaze was calm as he looked at the 5 people in the distance. As the smoke and dust dispersed, a chubby white figure was revealed. The purple mechanical eyes seemed to be filled with endless killing intent, causing the hearts of those who looked at the purple light to tremble. They could not help but be filled with fear. Bufang patted Xiao Bai's plump belly, and his eyes carried a trace of coldness. Without saying anything, he turned around and began to size up the corpse of the giant burst dragon demonic fish. Xiao Bai's body twisted, and the gravel under his feet swirled in the air. Then, Xiao Bai's originally slow body burst forth with a tyrannical speed and instantly rushed to the side of the 5 people. Sensing killing intent toward the host. Obliterate! A fist smashed out, crashing toward the person closest to him. At this moment, even though Xiao Bai was a clone, and its size was much smaller, its battle prowess was not weak. At least, dealing with an 8th-grade war god was not a problem for it. Crack! Faced with White E's extremely oppressive punch, The figure holding a long saber was directly smashed into the air. The long saber in his hand was also smashed by this punch, leaving a round fist mark on it. Kill him. The 5/6 grade battle emperors bellowed. Pitch black, true energy surged out from his body, then exploded with a terrifying might. Every strike carried true energy, and it seemed as though they were about to materialize their attacks and bombard Xiao Bai's body. However, not even the slightest injury was caused. Xiao Bai was unscathed. With a slap, the black longbow in the leader's hand was smashed into pieces. Bang! 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 The 5 figures were smashed away one after another, crashing into the city wall and creating a huge pit on the wall. The bamboo hats on the heads of this group of people were all shattered, revealing their pale faces. Their complexions were a little strange, and there was not a trace of blood on them. This group of people obviously did not expect Xiao Bai's terrifying battle prowess. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. The mechanical puppet that stood proudly in the middle of the field was like an undefeatable devil god. What kind of monster is this? Who is that young man? When did such a character appear in the southern city? Why didn't we receive any information? A figure spat out a mouthful of blood and said sinisterly. The others were also bewildered, but this bewilderment did not last long. These people all took out a pitch-black jade bottle from their bosoms. The jade bottle flickered with light, and within it, a few elixirs were poured out. The 5 of them did not have the slightest hesitation as they swallowed the elixirs. After swallowing the elixirs, the aura of the 5 figures once again rose, almost breaking through the threshold of the 7th grade. No matter who he is, no matter who obstructs us, we must complete the High Priestess mission. Even if we die, we cannot retreat. The eyes of the 5 people were completely blood-red. Like a berserk beast, their aura exploded, and they rapidly charged toward Xiao Bai. Xiao Bai's purple eyes did not have the slightest bit of mercy. Killing intent emerged, and then, with a flip of his mechanical hand, a huge machete appeared. His figure suddenly turned, and he disappeared from his spot. With a swish, fresh blood splattered. A figure's head was directly chopped off by Xiao Bai's machete, and his entire body rushed forward a few steps. Finally, he powerlessly fell to the ground. In the distance, everyone's entire body trembled. Xiao plopped his butt on the roof, his mind trembling. Damn this, why was this Xiao Bai puppet so awesome? He actually did not have the slightest bit of hesitation when killing people. That machete simply made Xiao Yu feel a little cold on his neck. Everyone originally thought that there would be a huge battle, but the result made them feel a little speechless, because the battle on the scene had completely turned into a one-sided massacre. Xiao Bai carried out a merciless massacre on these 5 people. On the big ship in the middle of the vast sea, Ji Chengyu's wild and unrestrained laughter suddenly resounded, spreading everywhere. Lien Fu pinched his orchid fingers, and his eyes narrowed. The tip of his foot lightly tapped on the small boat, and his figure actually floated up, treading on the air. A long sword appeared in his hand, and the blade of the long sword emitted a cold light. This is the black firmament sword that His Majesty bestowed upon me. I have always been reluctant to use it. Now, I will use this sword to escort King Yu back, Lien Fu coldly said. His sharp voice had almost completely become hoarse. After Ji Chengyu finished laughing, he suddenly raised his head, and his eyes were filled with brutality and unwillingness. Escort me back? Chief Steward Lien, aren't you a little too confident in your own strength? Ji Chengyu slowly untied the cloak draped over his body. That red cloak fell to the ground, making a clattering sound. Then, under Lien Fu's gaze, Ji Chengyu's aura actually began to rise little by little. The corner of Zhao Ruge's mouth curled up, and he floated back. He looked at Ji Chengyu, whose aura was continuously rising, and narrowed his eyes. The current Ji Chengyu was no longer the Ji Chengyu of the past. Boom! The Battle Saint realm, I have always wanted to experience it. Chief Steward Lien, don't disappoint I. Ji Chengyu took a step forward and actually floated in the air. His entire person was like an ancient demon god, and his aura was extremely powerful. Ji Qingyu, whose cultivation was sealed, had just broken through the seal, actually stepped into the seventh grade realm in one go. How was this possible? How long had it been? Lien Fu's pupils constricted, and his mind trembled. Qingyu waved his hand and wildly laughed. A long halberd appeared in his hand, and he tightly gripped it. True energy revolved around it, and a pitch-black aura spread out from his arm. With a wave of the long halberd, the terrifying pressure caused Lien Fu's mind to tremble. "Kill!" Ji Qingyu angrily shouted. Holding the long halberd, he directly stomped down with his foot, and even the waves of the ocean surged as he charged toward Lien Fu. Holding the long sword, Lien Fu pinched his thumb and middle finger together. His white hair fluttered, and the cry of his sword filled the sky. This battle was ultimately unavoidable. Chapter 261. The southern city, which had been ravaged for a long time, finally quietened down. At the city gate, a white, chubby figure stood. The purple brilliance in its mechanical eyes that could make one shiver all over gradually turned red. The machete in White E's hand also gradually softened, then turned back into a normal palm leaf fan-like palm. Around it, 5 bodies fell to the ground. These 5 people were the mysterious people who were prepared to kill Bufang. At this moment, their heads were chopped off by Xiao Bai, and some pitch-black blood flowed all over the ground. Xiao Bai's mechanical eyes slightly flickered. It no longer paid attention to the 5 figures that were starting to rot and melt into black water. Instead, it turned around and returned to Bufang's side. Bufang retracted his gaze from the burst dragon demonic fish and landed on the 5 figures that had turned into black water. His brows immediately furrowed. He felt that the stench emitted by these 5 figures was somewhat familiar, just like the ghost chef from back then. Oh, forget it. Who cares what they are? Bufang's brows loosened. He was too lazy to look at the 5 pools of disgusting black water. Instead, he patted Xiao Bai's plump belly, and his gaze once again landed on the burst dragon demonic fish. The carcass of this burst dragon demonic fish was extremely huge. It was even bigger than the wandering dragon cow in his system's dimensional storage. However, compared to the wandering dragon cow, the value of this burst dragon demonic fish's carcass was not high. While Xiao Bai was torturing and killing the 5 people, Bufang had already observed this burst dragon demonic fish. From the way the burst dragon demonic fish's flesh was cut open, it was already contaminated. There were black stains seeping out. Walking around this burst dragon demonic fish, Bufang occasionally patted the carcass of this burst dragon demonic fish. Then he suddenly jumped onto the back of this burst dragon demonic fish. He had just recovered some of his true energy and summoned the dragon bone kitchen knife once again. After busying himself for a while, Bufang suddenly inserted his palm into the back of the fish. His expression froze, and a huge force burst forth. He actually pulled out the fish bones of this burst dragon demonic fish while it was still alive. The huge fish bones were like incomparably sharp weapons. The sinister fish bones emitted a penetrating cold light under the sunlight. They were extremely sharp. Bufang wasn't interested in the fish bone and casually threw it to the side. The eyes of the battle emperors in the southern city protruded. These are the bones of 7th grade spirit beast. They're all worth money. The people of Southern City were very smart. Because there were many merchants, the cultivators of Southern City were very good at doing business. This fish bone could definitely be sold for a high price. Bufang casually tossed it aside, causing greed to appear in many people's eyes. They were all thinking about how to snatch the fish bones later. Rip! The loud noise pulled the attention of many people back. Then, under the dumbfounded gazes of the crowd, the gigantic body of the demonic fish was torn into 2 halves, and Bufang jumped into the 2 halves, searching for something. Oh, it's you. After searching for a while, Bufang finally found a piece of snow-white fish meat in the body of the demonic fish. The fish meat wasn't contaminated by the surrounding black impurities. It was as pure as white snow and emitted a faint fragrance. The dragon bone kitchen knife twirled in Bufong's hand. With a flourish of the knife, Bufong unceremoniously dug out the piece of fish meat that was the size of a stone mill. This piece of fish meat was definitely the essence of the demonic fish. The fact that it wasn't contaminated meant that the concentration of spirit energy it contained was very high. The snow-white fish meat was soft and warm. Bufong moved his nose closer and took a deep breath. He didn't smell the fishy smell, but instead, there was a faint milk-like fragrance. After storing the piece of fish meat into the system's dimensional storage, Bufong nodded his head in satisfaction. Then he jumped out of the demonic fish's body and landed on the ground. True energy surged and shed away the impurities on his body. Bufong let out a long breath. The crisis of the southern city was resolved just like that. The dreadful demonic fish that had troubled the southern city for so many days was finally killed. Even the most precious piece of fish meat was peeled off. After Bufong left, the eyes of the other 6th grade battle emperors in the southern city flickered. They approached the carcass of the demonic fish and began to search for valuable items. Just as Bufong understood, the demonic fish was already contaminated because it was used by the 5 mysterious people. Much of its meat was inedible, which made many people feel regretful. Otherwise, the meat of a 7th grade spirit beast could be sold for a huge sum of money. But even so, many people found quite a few treasures on the demonic fish, and their faces were filled with joy. The fish bone was also fought over by the crowd. The fish meat was inedible, but the bone could be used to craft weapons. If they could find a good blacksmith, they might be able to forge a few high-grade weapons. After all, the spirit energy and spirituality contained in the bone of a 7th grade spirit beast was not something ordinary materials could compare to. Xiaobai blindly followed behind Bufong. The two of them slowly walked on the streets of the southern city. Xiao Yinyu and Xiao Yu hurried over. When Xiao Yinyu saw that Owner Bu was unscathed, the boulder in her heart was finally lifted and she patted her chest. Xiao Yu, on the other hand, excitedly circled around Bufong and chattered nonstop. His admiration for Bufong was like a surging river, unending and unending. Bufong nodded at Xiao Yinyu and led Xiaobai toward the Xiao family. Xiao Qiyun was rescued. His entire body was stained with the blood of the demonic fish. With the help of the Xiao family, he was fed an elixir and recovered. He looked at the approaching Bufong with a weak expression. "Thank you for saving me. Otherwise, I would have," Xiao Qiyun said weakly. His face was filled with gratitude. When he recalled the dangerous scene just now, his heart shuddered. If Bufong did not help, he would have been turned into minced meat by the claws of the demonic fish. Bufong nodded and calmly accepted Xiao Qiyun's gratitude. "You were poisoned. Although that elixir could help you break through, it will torture you like gangrene. If this happens again in battle, you will definitely die," Bufong said. The hearts of the Xiao family trembled. Xiao Qiyun's lips trembled. He wanted to say something, but nothing came out. In the end, he was reaping what he sowed. If he had been more cautious and studied the elixir instead of taking it rashly, this would not have happened. "Second Master, we don't have much of the antidote left," an elder of the Xiao family said worriedly as he looked at Xiao Qiyun. Xiao Qiyun's heart trembled. He felt even more bitter. The person who provided the elixir had already been killed by the puppet behind Bufong. They were about to run out of the antidote. The next time the elixir flared up, he did not know how miserable his death would be. Xiao Kacheng stood at the side, not daring to utter a single word. He felt somewhat fortunate. Back then, the 5 mysterious people were looking for him. However, they all despised him for being too weak and having a low status in the Xiao family. They only looked for his second brother as a middleman. He did not expect them to harbor such evil intentions. If he was the one who tested the elixir, the one in misery right now would be him, Xiao Kacheng. Thinking of this, he actually felt somewhat fortunate and carefree. Lin Qinair's complexion was pale. She tightly held onto her husband's arm. The skin on it was rotting and emitting a foul stench. However, she did not despise it in the slightest. Her eyes were only filled with worry and helplessness. Xiao Yu's complexion was also deathly pale. He did not expect such an ending. Owner Bu, I wonder, do you have a way to save my second uncle? Xiao Yinyu frowned as she looked at the weak Xiao Qiyun. She could not help but turn her head and ask Bufang. Owner Bu was not an ordinary chef. Back then, the elixir cuisine, sage herb phoenix chicken soup, had pulled her back from the brink of death. Perhaps Owner Bu had a way to save her. Senior, please save my father. After hearing Xiao Yinyu's words, Xiao Yu immediately turned his hopeful gaze towards Bufang. Bufang's various performances had already won him over. In his opinion, there was nothing a senior could not do. Lin Qinair also looked hopefully at Bufang as if she was grasping on her last life-saving straw. Xiao Qiyun, on the other hand, could not help but smile bitterly. He knew his own situation well. Without the antidote pill, the next time his illness acted up, he would definitely turn into a puddle of black water. What could Bufang do? He was not a doctor. Xiao Keqing also stared at Bufang. This guy who popped out of nowhere, did he really know medicine? Could it be that he could really save Xiao Qiyun? If that was really the case, then he should really crawl into the toilet and cry. Bufang frowned. It was not that he did not want to save Xiao Qiyun, but he did not know if he could save him. That poison pill was extremely poisonous. Even a 7th grade spirit beast was poisoned to the point that its meat could not be eaten. Xiao Qiyun's body was probably already empty by now. Young Master Bu, I beg you to save my husband. I will promise you anything. When Lin Qinair saw the hesitation on Bufang's face, she immediately knelt down in front of Bufang. Her face was filled with tears as she begged. Bufang hurriedly helped Lin Qinair up. I cannot guarantee that he can be saved. He has consumed the pill for too long. His body seems to have been corroded by the poison. I can only say, let's give it a try, Bufang said helplessly. Lin Qinair and Xiao Yu's eyes suddenly lit up. Bufang did not make a firm promise. Did that mean there was still a chance? The two were instantly overjoyed and hurriedly thanked Bufang. Xiao Yinyu also pursed her lips and looked at Bufang. Her beautiful eyes sparkled with a moving light. Bufang's expression was a little anxious in the face of this group of people's enthusiasm. He waited until they had calmed down before saying, "That. I can only say that I'll give it a try. Don't hold too much hope. Since we want to save him, then first clear a clean kitchen for me. I will try my best." Except for Xiao Yinyu, the others were stunned on the spot. They looked at Bufang awkwardly. Shouldn't one feel the pulse and prescribe medicine to save a person? What do you want a kitchen for? How would they have the time to cook at such an urgent time? Young Master Bu, please save my husband first. If you want to eat something good, I will personally cook for you. Lin Qinair was also a little confused. She was stunned for a long time before she opened her mouth. Bufang's face darkened. He coughed lightly and did not explain too much. He merely glanced at them indifferently. Do as I say. Prepare a clean kitchen for me. I save people, not by feeling the pulse, but by cooking. Chapter 262. Culinary Skills. Culinary skills can save lives? Someone from the Xiao family voiced out his doubts. It wasn't that they didn't believe it, but it was simply unbelievable. A chef could only cook delicacies, and delicacies could only satisfy one's appetite. How could they save lives? Ignorant. If I say I can save lives, then I can save lives. Why don't you do it? Bufang twitched the corner of his mouth, glanced at Xiao Keqing, and sneered. He didn't like it when people questioned his culinary skills, especially when it was a question without any technical content. Xiao Keqing's face stiffened, and he snorted inwardly. Him? What a joke. He couldn't wait for Xiao Qiyun to fall. That way, no one would compete with him for the position of Xiao family head. Why would he save lives? Besides, he didn't have the ability to do so. Lin Qinair was also a little doubtful. Her husband's life was at stake, and she didn't dare to act rashly. Using culinary skills to save lives. This was a little absurd. She was different from Xiao Keqing. Her culinary skills were excellent, but she had never heard of using culinary skills to save lives. However, she didn't open her mouth to question Bufang, because Xiao Yinyu was constantly signaling her with her eyes. Xiao Yinyu probably wouldn't speak carelessly. At this moment, she had no choice but to grit her teeth and say, "Fine. Young Master Bu, I will go prepare now." Xiao Yinyu let out a long sigh. She was afraid that second aunt would question Owner Bu like Xiao Keqing. If that happened, with Owner Bu's strange temperament, he might just give up. The group of people didn't say anything else. They carried the weak Xiao Qiyun toward the Xiao Mansion. On this day, the Xiao Mansion became the center of attention in the southern city. Many experts of the southern city came to visit, hoping to befriend the young expert who could kill a 7th-grade spirit beast. Even the city lord of the southern city was alarmed. However, the Xiao family refused the visits of many experts, saying that Bufang needed to conserve his energy to save lives. This disappointed many people. However, many people expressed their understanding. Because in the Battle of the Southern City, the Xiao family's second master, Xiao Qiyun, was almost killed by the 7th-ranked devilfish, and was even heavily injured and weakened. Many people had witnessed that battle, so they didn't feel any resentment. When Bufang entered the Xiao Mansion this time, the attitude of the people in the Xiao Mansion changed completely. Not to mention the fact that Bufang could save the second master of the Xiao family. Bufang's cultivation alone was enough to attract the attention of the Xiao family. The old man of the Xiao family also walked out of the attic, trembling as he chatted with Bufang. He begged Bufang to cure second master Xiao. "Young Master Bu, the kitchen is ready." Lin Qinair wiped the sweat off her forehead and jogged over, panting slightly. In order to make a clean kitchen for Bufang, she had personally tidied up the Xiao Mansion's kitchen, all for the sake of satisfying Bufang. Bufang nodded and gestured for Lin Qinair to lead the way. The people of the Xiao family curiously followed behind Bufang. The group entered the kitchen in a grandiose manner. Xiao Yinyu's eyes were filled with curiosity. She was excited that she could once again witness Owner Bu's culinary skills. "Leave one person behind to light the fire. Everyone else, leave the kitchen," Bufang said calmly. The people of the Xiao family were instantly stirred up. Many people were discussing spiritedly. They really wanted to see how the so-called cooking could save lives. But since Bufang wanted them to leave, they had no choice but to leave. In the end, only Xiao Yinyu was left standing on the spot, blinking her beautiful eyes at Bufang. "You want to light the fire?" Bufang was startled. Starting a fire was not an easy task. He thought it would be left behind by some burly man, but it made no difference. "Owner Bu, are you really confident? The poison in second uncle's body seems to be very serious." Xiao Yinyu rolled up her light muslin sleeves, revealing her jade-like white wrist. There were almost no impurities on her fair skin, and it was easy to grasp. "Let's give it a try. It might work," Bufang said. Patting Xiao Bai's stomach, Bufang turned around and walked to the kitchen counter. He took out a chopping board and some celadone bowls and placed them on the table. He sized up the items in the kitchen and familiarized himself with the tools. After familiarizing himself with the tools, he sat down on a chair and began to rest. Xiao Yinyu blinked her eyes in confusion. She looked at Bufang and said, "Owner Bu, I'm going to rest for a while. I don't have enough true energy in my body. How do you expect me to make an elixir cuisine?" Bufang rolled his eyes and grumpily said, he had almost consumed all of his true energy when he was dealing with the demonic fish. How could he quickly recover his true energy now? Xiao Yinyu was also startled for a moment. Then, she let out a snort and could not help but chuckle. That was right. Bufang had consumed a lot of his true energy just now. Cooking a delicacy like the elixir cuisine would definitely consume a lot of true energy. If he was not in a good state, it would be easy for him to make mistakes. Bufang casually waved his hand and took out a golden oyster pancake from the system's storage space. The oyster pancake was still emitting steam and a rich aroma was spreading out. This was the ingredient he had prepared before he left. The oyster pancake tasted pretty good, but the main point was that it could help one recover some spirit energy. It was pretty good, even though the amount of spirit energy recovered was not much. After taking a bite of the oyster pancake, Bufang's cheeks bulged as he chewed with his eyes wide open. Xiao Yinyu was speechless as she looked at Bufang. She did not know what to say. Go and ask the Shao family to gather all the spirit herbs they can find. I want to see if there are any that I can use. Bufang mumbled as he stuffed the oyster pancake in his mouth. After he finished speaking, he took another bite. Xiao Yinyu smacked her lips and gently pursed her red lips. She glanced at the oyster pancake and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Then, she stood up with a bitter smile and walked toward the door. Bufang watched as she left. He took out another oyster pancake from the system storage space and stuffed it into his mouth. The halberd and the long sword collided in the air, emitting a crisp and melodious sound. Waves of genuine qi burst forth, spreading out like a ripple in the void, rippling out. Lien Fu's figure slightly trembled in the air. His white hair fluttered in the wind as he continuously retreated several steps. His face was already extremely gloomy as he gripped the black firmament sword in his hand and continuously condensed his aura. Ji Qiyu single-handedly grasped the long halberd with an incomparably domineering aura. His eyes were burning with passion, and his body seemed to be emitting hot steam. He stepped in the air with an unparalleled aura. With a swing of the long halberd, his figure rushed toward Lien Fu like a dragon. Lien Fu was a veteran 7th-grade battle saint who had protected the imperial city for many years. In the past, if Ji Qingyu were to face Lien Fu, he would definitely be beaten up. But today, he was able to fight evenly with Lien Fu. This feeling of mastering power was truly wonderful. Clang! Lien Fu's figure trembled as he rapidly retreated several steps. Ji Qingyu's domineering aura intensified. With a swing of the long halberd, he dashed out like a dragon and slashed toward Lien Fu. The true energy of the two collided continuously. Terrifying waves spread in all directions and caused the waves below to surge. The more Lien Fu fought, the more apprehensive he became. How did Ji Qingyu's cultivation level suddenly skyrocket so much? How could it be that easy to break through the shackles of the 7th-grade battle saint realm? When Emperor Changfeng sealed Ji Qingyu's cultivation level, he was merely a 6th-grade battle emperor. However, now he had actually reached the 7th-grade battle emperor realm. There must be something strange about this. A pitch-black aura permeated Ji Qingyu's arm. The black aura was like little snakes slithering around, giving Ji Qingyu an endless amount of strength. Every time the long halberd swung down, Lien Fu was forced to retreat, causing the vast sea below to churn. Chief Supervisor Lien, is that all you've got? You've really disappointed I. The more Ji Qingyu fought, the crazier he became. His eyes were even surging with a scarlet color, and his mouth constantly emitted disdainful words. The originally unreachable expert was now being suppressed by him. This sense of excitement, this sense of comfort, made him feel as if all the pores on his body were about to open up. He felt as if his entire being was about to sublimate. The two of them fought from the sky to the surface of the sea, causing the waves to tumble. However, the two of them paid no heed to it. Every time they violently collided, waves would rise up in the sea, as if it was raining cats and dogs. The crashing waves washed away Lien Fu's entire body, leaving him in a somewhat sorry state. The crown on his head was shattered, and his white hair stained his face. Qingyu, if that's the case, then I won't hold back anymore. Lien Fu was also angry. He was feeling rather depressed after being suppressed for so long. With a sharp whistle, Lien Fu swung his long sword. Light blue true energy surged out and condensed around his body, transforming into an eagle with its wings spread. Lien Fu continuously tapped the surface of the sea with the tip of his foot. His figure's speed suddenly skyrocketed, and he appeared in front of Qingyu in an instant. His long sword thrust forward. One strike sent Qingyu's crown flying, the other slashed open Qingyu's cheek, and the final strike greatly dampened Qingyu's momentum. This was a veteran 7th-grade battle saint. His strength was still extremely terrifying. Zhao Rouge, who was standing on the ship, could not help but shake his head as he watched Qingyu fall into a disadvantageous position in an instant. After all, Qingyu had only just grasped this kind of power. How could he possibly be a match for a veteran battle saint like Lien Fu? As expected, he was at a disadvantage in the battle and would soon be captured. After taking a deep look at Lien Fu, who was suppressing King Yu in the air, Zhao Rouge turned around and entered the cabin. Not long after, a powerful aura burst forth from within the cabin. The sound of a bowstring snapping resounded through the air. Within the cabin, a long black arrow instantly whizzed out, and even the air seemed to be distorted by this arrow. After Lien Fu forced King Yu to retreat, he suddenly felt a terrifying sense of danger. He raised his head and saw a pitch-black arrow continuously enlarging before his eyes. Chapter 263. Boxes after boxes of exquisitely packaged jade boxes were brought in from outside the door and placed on the kitchen table, filling it to the brim. After all, the Xiao family was one of the tycoons of the southern city. To be able to be called a tycoon, it was definitely not something an ordinary family could compare to. Its resources were also not something an ordinary person could imagine. Bufang curiously stood up and glanced at the spirit herbs. He discovered that all of them were actually quite precious. Among them, there was even a 6th-grade spirit herb. For a tycoon family whose strongest battle prowess was only at the 6th-grade battle emperor level, this was indeed not an easy feat. Bufang chose a few spirit herbs with strong medicinal properties from the dazzling array of spirit herbs and ordered the servants to remove the rest. After eating 2 oyster pancakes, Bufang felt that the true energy within his body had recovered by quite a bit. His energy whirlpool had also resumed its normal operation. After washing the chopping board, Bufang's hand was shrouded in green smoke. The pitch-black dragon bone kitchen knife appeared in his hand. He twirled the knife and twirled it. Bufang then cut the selected spirit herbs into pieces and placed them on a porcelain plate. With the dragon bone kitchen knife, Bufang did not need to waste any effort to sense the spirit energy fluctuations within each spirit herb. He did not need to worry about the spirit energy dissipating within the spirit herbs, so he was very relaxed. After processing the spirit herbs, Bufang took out a few spirit herbs that were used to neutralize the medicinal properties from the system's dimensional storage. Bufang took out a piece of snow-white fish the size of a millstone and placed it on the chopping board. A faint milky fragrance was emitted from the fish. Xiao Yinyu's eyes slightly lit up when she saw this piece of fish. This was the fish of a 7th-grade spirit beast. Its value was extremely high and could not be compared to ordinary ingredients. When the exceptionally intelligent Xiao Yinyu saw this piece of fish, she immediately understood Bufang's plan. In terms of quality, this piece of fish was the best among the demonic fish. Moreover, compared to the other pieces of fish, this piece of fish was not contaminated by the black energy, whereas the other parts of the demonic fish were contaminated. This meant that this piece of fish contained a substance that could resist the black energy contamination. It was the most suitable ingredient to treat Xiao Qiyun. Bufang did have such a plan. He used clean water to wash the fish in his hands, then pinched the huge fish. This fish was very soft, but it was only on the surface. The inside was somewhat hard. Bufang silently measured an area in his mind. Then, with a twirl of the kitchen knife, he carefully cut off a large piece of fish. After putting away the rest of the fish into the system's storage space, there was only one piece of fish left on the chopping board, but it was already very big. Because the snow-white fish had been sliced into thin slices, the veins on it were extremely obvious. Layers upon layers of tender red were extremely eye-catching. After cutting the middle of the fish, he made a few more cuts on the sides of the fish so that the 2 pieces were still connected. After that, he cut the meat horizontally and made a cut. After processing the fish, Bufang looked towards Xiao Yinyu and said, "Start the fire." Xiao Yinyu nodded her head and started the fire. She often cooked, so she was not unfamiliar with starting a fire. For a young lady of a family, this was a rare and precious skill. Not long after, the fire was lit. She poured some of the clear Heaven Mountain spring water that Bufang brought with him into the wok, then placed the processed fish into it. The minced spirit herbs were poured into the wok and simmered together with the clear water in the wok. After covering the wok with a lid, the true energy in Bu Fong's dantian circulated and covered the lid. He sensed the circulation routes of the spirit energy of the ingredients and spirit herbs in the wok. "Keep the fire going. Don't stop," Bu Fong said as he shot a glance at Xiao Yinyu, who was working hard to light the fire. Xiao Yinyu's pretty face was slightly red from the heat of the fire. The redness was like an intoxicating lotus, quietly blooming, releasing an enchanting aura. After glaring at Bu Fong, Xiao Yinyu continued to light the fire. The fire grew bigger and bigger, causing the clear water in the wok to boil. However, Bu Fong was not in a hurry. His palm was still pressed on the lid of the wok. His true energy flowed like a small snake as he sensed the circulation routes of the spirit energy in the wok. Under the catalysis of Bu Fong's true energy, many of the spirit herbs in the wok melted at a speed visible to the naked eye. Like melting snow, they melted into the clear water, and the essence of the spirit herbs even seeped into the fish. The fish became even whiter, as if there were rays of light circulating within it. After the fire boiled for about an hour, the fish was finally cooked under the catalysis of Bu Fong's true energy. Bu Fong lifted the lid of the wok and steaming hot air gushed out. Like a huge mushroom, it soared into the sky, hit the ceiling, and spread out. Bu Fong took the spatula and scooped out the white and tender fish meat. Clear, sweet water dripped down from the meat, each crystal clear drop of crystal clear water. He placed the snow-white fish into a huge porcelain bowl that he had prepared beforehand. The fish had a lustrous luster and was incomparably tender. Steam was rolling on top of the fish like small snakes, dispersing in all directions. Bu Fong picked up a pair of chopsticks and pressed on the fish. Immediately, crystal-clear juice flowed out from the fish. A rich aroma, similar to boiling milk, wafted from the fish. This aroma made Bu Fong's heart feel as if it was about to melt. Leaving the fish to one side, Bu Fong turned his attention to the clear fish soup. After skimming off the spirit herb dregs and foam floating on the surface of the soup, the boiling fish soup in the wok was as clear as water that had just been poured into it. He took out the giant blood crown from the system's dimensional storage. The blood crown contained a large amount of spirit essence. After cutting a small piece, he placed the blood crown into the boiling water. True energy accompanied the blood crown, causing it to completely melt into the liquid, like snow melting ice. The juice immediately turned a light red and emitted a rich spiritual essence. Xiao Yinyu had been observing Bu Fong's movements the entire time. Bu Fong's movements were as smooth as the floating clouds and flowing water, bringing with it a peculiar sense of beauty. Her eyes slightly lit up. Even though her face was a little red from the heat, her heart was burning with passion. After watching for a while, she suddenly felt puzzled. She realized that Owner Bu's cooking steps were somewhat familiar. Isn't this the cooking method of the Dragon River vinegar fish? Xiao Yinyu was shocked. The more she thought about it, the more similar it seemed. The only difference was the fish meat. The Dragon River fish in vinegar was a famous dish in Southern City. The steps were not difficult, but the control of the heat was the most important. Moreover, the most difficult part of this dish was mixing each seasoning into a thick sauce. If the sauce tasted good, then the Dragon River fish in vinegar would taste good. Owner Bu never had a thorough understanding of the Dragon River vinegar fish. How could he have perfect control of the heat? The concoction of the thick sauce could make the dish taste better. More importantly, wasn't this an elixir cuisine? Could the Dragon River vinegar fish be made into an elixir cuisine? While Xiao Yinyu was in a daze, Bu Fong had already started stirring the sauce. The thick sauce had a faint dark brown color and exuded an intoxicating sweet and sour aroma. Due to the addition of the blood crown, a single whiff of the aroma made one feel as if the spiritual essence within one's body was swimming like a dragon. Bu Fong scooped up the sauce and then poured it out. The viscous sauce formed a dark brown line and slowly flowed back into the wok. The energy vortex within Bu Fong's dantian was constantly rotating, not stopping for even a moment. The true energy that had just recovered by half was almost depleted again. Twirling the ladle, the corners of Bu Fong's mouth curled up. His eyes narrowed as he scooped up all the sauce from the wok. When the sauce was poured onto the snow-white fish, the fish seemed to come to life. With a sudden inhalation and exhalation, the rich spiritual essence within the sauce was absorbed by the fish. Steaming hot steam soared into the sky and filled the air, accompanied by a sweet and sour aroma. It was an incomparably enchanting sight. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. A faint sound rang out, as if a spirit beast was roaring. Then, an indistinct silhouette of a spirit beast dissipated above the dish. A storm-like wave of energy surged out, blowing Bu Fong's loose hair into the air. Xiao Yanyu also stood up and looked excitedly at the dish that was emitting a surging spirit energy and aroma. Was the elixir cuisine completed? The corners of Bu Fong's mouth curled up. He took out another small piece of the blood crown, crushed it into powder, and sprinkled it onto the dish. Elixir cuisine, blood crown, drunken demonic fish completed. Chapter 264. The pitch-black arrow pierced through the air and shot out from the hold of the ship. The pitch-black energy blossomed in the sky like thunder, emitting a deep rumble. It was too fast, so fast that Lien Fu couldn't react in time. His white hair was swept up by the howling wind. In just a split second, the pitch-black arrow had arrived in front of him. Ji Qingyu's heart trembled. He felt a huge pressure all over his body, as if he was being crushed by a mountain. The sense of danger brought about by that arrow was too intense. He angrily turned his head to look at the hold of the ship. "When did I ask you to make a move?" Ji Qingyu angrily roared. However, the only reply he got was silence. Lien Fu's throat was hoarse. With a roar, he held the black firmament sword in front of his chest in an attempt to block this almost unavoidable arrow. Ding! That arrow crossed the air and directly nailed the black firmament sword in front of Lien Fu's chest. The sturdy and sharp black firmament sword actually let out a mournful wail, as if it couldn't bear the weight of this arrow. Lien Fu's figure was blasted away by the terrifying force. His figure continuously slid on the surface of the sea, setting off monstrous waves. Crack! With a crisp sound, the black firmament sword in Lien Fu's hand shattered into pieces. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his aura became extremely weak. His eyes revealed a trace of fear as he solemnly looked at the ship. That arrow was too terrifying. It wasn't something an ordinary person could shoot. "Qingyu, what kind of people have you colluded with? I advise you not to go astray and lead a wolf into the house, ruining the light breeze's great empire." Lien Fu clutched his chest. The body of the black firmament sword in his hand was already shattered, leaving only the hilt. Looking at the hilt, Lien Fu's face revealed an irrepressible grief. Ji Qingyu's eyes were bloodshot as he turned toward the ship. He never thought that those people on the ship would make a move. They promised him that they wouldn't. "Eunuch, you're too noisy." A thunderous sound lingered above the vast sea. Then, another arrow whizzed out of the ship. It was as black as ink and instantly pierced through the void. Lien Fu's eyes widened as he gathered his aura. He struck out with his palm in an attempt to block the arrow. However, the arrow pierced through the air and instantly pierced through his body, causing scarlet blood to blossom. Lien Fu's body staggered a few steps in the air. He gritted his teeth, and the flesh on his face trembled. A huge hole had appeared on his chest, and a black stream of energy was corroding the wound. Pucci, a large mouthful of blood spurted out as Lien Fu's complexion instantly turned deathly pale. He could no longer hold onto the hilt of the sword in his hand as it fell into the ocean, causing a small splash. The profound firmament sword. Lien Fu's face was filled with sorrow. That was the sword that Emperor Chanfeng had bestowed upon him. It was the hope in his heart, but now it had also shattered. As long as the sword was there, the person was there. If the sword was broken, then it should be about time for him. You. Ji Qingyu's eyes widened as he stared fixedly at the indistinct figure in the cabin. He gritted his teeth so hard that his cheeks were protruding, demonstrating the rage in his heart. He did not want anyone else to intervene. He wanted to rely on his own strength to defeat Lian Fu, the unreachable existence in the past. He looked at Lian Fu. At this moment, Lian Fu's vitality was rapidly fading. He clutched his chest as dark red blood continuously dripped down into the vast sea. It was swallowed up by the seawater and disappeared. Within the seawater, fat fishes that had sniffed out the scent of blood leaped high into the air. They gathered around the spot where Lian Fu's blood had dripped onto, making a series of splashing noises. Lian Fu's shriveled hair gradually dried up. His face was like a withered corpse as a deathly aura spread. Qingyu, don't do something that ruined your father's life's work. Lian Fu sighed in a low voice. Rip. Ji Qingyu's pupils constricted as the scarlet color in his eyes rapidly faded away. Another pitch-black arrow shot out from the cabin at lightning speed and directly penetrated Lian Fu's powerless body, which was floating in the air. With a poochie sound, the enormous force sent Lian Fu flying a great distance away, causing a spray of blood to blossom. Lian Fu's body was broken after all. Like a withered leaf, it helplessly floated down in the wind. Bang! Lian Fu's body ruthlessly smashed into the small boat on the sea. His lifeless eyes gazed at the boundless sky. His white hair was visibly turning yellow. His blood was dispersing and his vitality was disappearing. Your Majesty, this old servant is here to accompany you. There seemed to be a leisurely sigh, accompanied by a sense of relief. Ji Qingyu took a deep breath and closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they had already regained their calmness. He took a step forward and returned to the deck. Looking at the lonely boat, the corners of his mouth involuntarily trembled as an indescribable sorrow emerged in his heart. Lian Fu was still dead in the end. However, death was also a form of release for him. Qingyu, if the Venerable One didn't make a move, you might not be a match for Chief Eunuch Lian. Isn't the Venerable One worried about you? Inside the cabin, Zhao Rouge slowly walked out with a paper fan in his hand. There was a gentle smile on his face. However, when that smile landed in Ji Qingyu's eyes, it seemed to carry an indescribable sense of mockery. Then what should we do with Chief Eunuch Lian's body? Zhao Rouge asked. Ji Qingyu took one more look at Lian Fu's body and lightly exhaled. He turned his head and walked back into the cabin. After all, he was father's most trusted aide. Tidy up the body and send it back to Ji Qingxue for a proper burial. The imperial city of the Light Wind Empire. Inside the great strength hall, Ji Qingxue slowly walked with his hands behind his back. The great strength hall was extremely spacious. The eunuchs and palace maids had all been chased out by him, so no one disturbed him. Suddenly, Ji Qingxue stopped in his tracks. One of his eyelids began to violently twitch, and his mind trembled. Suddenly, Ji Qingxue patted his chest, and his complexion became deathly pale. He turned around and looked through the main door of the great strength hall toward the vault of heaven. In the boundless vault of heaven, there seemed to be a stream of light descending. Narrowing his eyes, Ji Qingxue let out a soft sigh. The Xiao family of the imperial city. Xiao Meng sat in his study and was meditating while practicing calligraphy. Suddenly, the tip of his brush stopped and a large pool of ink splashed out, completely destroying the calligraphy in front of him. At this moment, his state of mind suddenly became somewhat restless. After hanging the brush on the brush holder, Xiao Meng tore the calligraphy on the table apart. With his hands behind his back, he walked to the window and gazed into the distant horizon. Steaming hot air and a rich aroma gushed out from a dish on the table. The heat waves rolled and surged violently. Honorable, isn't this the recipe for the Dragon River vinegar fish? Xiao Yinyu blinked her beautiful eyes at the sight of the elixir cuisine and asked curiously. The recipe for the Dragon River vinegar fish. How did Honorable know it so well? Moreover, the concoction of the sauce was especially important as it required skill and proficiency. The corners of Bu Fong's mouth curled up. The recipe notebook had detailed the recipe for the Dragon River vinegar fish, as well as the things to pay attention to. After carefully studying it several times, Bu Fong felt as if the knowledge had been imprinted in his mind and could not be erased. The main ingredient of the elixir cuisine this time was also fish meat. It just so happened that he was going to try out the recipe for the Dragon River vinegar fish. Even though the fish meat was different, the two dishes were fundamentally different. After all, it was an elixir cuisine, which focused on the medicinal properties of the food itself. He used so many elixirs to boil the fish meat, causing the essence of the elixirs to seep into the meat. The final sauce was concocted with the blood crown, which allowed the medicinal properties to reach an extremely impactful level. He had observed Xiao Qiyun's injuries. The poison he had been inflicted with was extremely severe. Using ordinary medicinal cuisine to alleviate the symptoms would not solve the root of the problem. It was too difficult or even impossible to cure him. Therefore, Bu Fong decided to use a strong medicinal effect to give a try. This piece of fish meat was the essence of the demonic fish. Moreover, it was impervious to the corrosion of the black gas, which meant that this piece of fish meat had special properties that could resist the black gas. There was nothing better than using it as a main ingredient. In addition, the essence of numerous elixirs had been absorbed by the fish meat. With the blood crown as the sauce, the medicinal effects of the blood crown drunken demonic fish would definitely be extremely terrifying. It was much more potent than the sage herb phoenix chicken soup that Bu Fong had just brewed. Walking to the entrance of the kitchen, he pushed open the tightly shut door. Immediately, a group of people from the Xiao family who were waiting outside blinked their eyes at Bu Fong. "Come in, bring the patient in. The elixir cuisine is ready." "Whether it works depends on his own luck," Bu Fong said calmly. Bu Fong said indifferently. Xiao Qiyun's injuries were too severe. The poison had almost corroded a large part of his body. Even though he had the essence of the demonic fish, Bu Fong was not sure if the effect would be the same. Lin Qinair was very excited. She hurriedly ordered people to carry Second Master Xiao in. Second Master Zhao's complexion was still very weak, and his spirit was also very dispirited. However, when he smelled the rich aroma that permeated the kitchen, his eyes lit up. He felt that the pain in his body had been greatly suppressed. "Thank you for your trouble, young Master Bu." Xiao Qiyun cupped his hands at Bu Fong. Bu Fong waved his hand and glanced at the people from the Xiao family. Then he pointed at the plate of steaming elixir cuisine on the table. "This is the elixir cuisine. Madam Xiao, please feed him," Bu Fong said calmly. The eyes of the people from the Xiao family fell upon the dish that Bu Fong had placed on the table. Their pupils constricted in an instant, and they were extremely puzzled. "Isn't this the Dragon River vinegar fish? Can the Dragon River vinegar fish save Second Master? Isn't this nonsense?" Chapter 265. The Xiao family members stared at the dish that was not much different from the Dragon River vinegar fish. They looked at each other, lowered their heads, and whispered to each other. Although the aroma of this dish was very rich, the best aroma they had ever smelled, and although this vinegar fish contained rich essence energy, it was just a Dragon River vinegar fish after all, a Dragon River dish that they ate every day. The people of Southern City were no strangers to the Dragon River vinegar fish, but none of them had ever heard that it could cure illnesses and detoxify poisons. This completely shattered their understanding of dishes and refreshed their understanding of the Dragon River vinegar fish. Bu Fong naturally wouldn't care about their doubts about the blood crown, intoxicating demonic fish. Moreover, from Bu Fong's point of view, what qualifications did they have to question him? They simply didn't know how valuable this dish was, and they hadn't even tasted it before. What qualifications did they have to talk about it? Therefore, Bu Fong remained indifferent. He took in the attitude of the Xiao family members and didn't take it to heart. He pulled a chair over and sat down, leaning against the back. Lin Qinair's understanding of cooking was naturally much deeper than the Xiao family members. Unlike them, she had been cooking under the influence of her parents since she was a child. Her specialty, the pan-fried pork bun, had become one of the most authentic delicacies in Southern City. Only she herself knew why there were so many pan-fried pork buns, and why her pan-fried pork buns could become an authentic delicacy. Her physique was weak, and her talent in cultivation was poor. She had relied on the Shao family's many elixirs to reach second rank. Although they had enhanced her cultivation, they had not improved her physique. Lin Qin Air's expression turned grave as she sensed the dish that resembled the Dragon River vinegar fish. This was the first time she had seen a dish that contained such rich spiritual energy. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. Although the dish resembled the Dragon River vinegar fish, Lin Qin Air knew very well that the difference between this dish and the Dragon River vinegar fish was like night and day. Ordinary Dragon River vinegar fish could not compare. With a solemn expression, she carefully picked up a pair of silver chopsticks prepared by a servant and dipped them into the steaming fish meat. With a tug of the chopsticks, the fish immediately split open, and a fragrance that seemed to have been contained for a long time spread out, as if one was bathing in a rich river of milk. Everyone from the Shao family revealed an intoxicated expression. The taste was too pure, so pure that it filled their hearts with sweetness. He carefully picked up a piece of fish meat. The snow-white fish meat was covered with a thick maroon sauce. The sauce was extremely thick, and with a slight pull, he could pull out a thread. The flesh of the fish trembled slightly. It was snow-white and shiny and emitted dense steam. The thick juice emitted a sour smell that caused one to salivate. Just by smelling it, quite a number of people involuntarily swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Xiao Qiyun also widened his eyes, a look of longing appearing on his frail face. He smacked his lips and stared at the fish that Lin Qin Air brought over. "Careful, it's hot," Lin Qin Air said softly. She used her hand to block the bottom of the fish, preventing it from accidentally falling to the ground. After taking a bite of the fish meat, the sour taste instantly triggered Xiao Qiyun's taste buds. His tongue felt as if it was covered by the thick juice, and his whole body trembled. An indescribable sourness instantly spread throughout his body. When the sourness subsided, the mellow, milky aroma of the fish blossomed in his mouth. It refreshed his mind, making him feel as if a warm current had melted in his mouth and flowed down his throat into his abdomen, cleansing his entire body. This fish meat. Xiao Qiyun's mind trembled. He felt an incomparably surging wave of spirit energy instantly erupt within his body, accompanied by a dense amount of true energy. This is the essence of the 7th grade spirit beast that caused trouble in the southern city. Owner Bu specially brought it out. Since this piece of fish meat wasn't contaminated by the poison, it might be useful for second uncle to decipher it, Xiao Yinyu explained with a smile at the corner of her mouth. The 7th grade spirit beast that caused trouble in the southern city. This news was like a bomb thrown into the hearts of the Shao family, leaving them crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. That's the meat of a 7th grade spirit beast. Moreover, it's the essence of the fish meat. Its value is simply immeasurable. Oh my God! Second Master actually managed to eat the meat of a 7th grade spirit beast. The eyes of the Shao family members immediately reddened. Their gazes toward the plate of blood crown, intoxicating demonic fish were no longer as indifferent as before. Instead, they were filled with envy, desire, and greed. They were truly envious. Who would have the chance to eat the meat of a 7th grade spirit beast? That kind of spirit beast was usually untouchable, let alone eating its meat. Lin Qin Air's heart trembled as well. Even though she had already guessed it, she was still incomparably astonished when she truly knew the value of this piece of fish meat. Xiao Qiyun was also dumbfounded. He didn't expect that such a small piece of fish meat was actually the meat of such a precious 7th grade spirit beast. No wonder its taste was so different. At this thought, Xiao Qiyun couldn't help but stick out his tongue and lick his lips. Bufang leaned back on his chair and indifferently watched. The corners of his mouth twitched involuntarily. This dish didn't just contain a piece of 7th grade demonic fish meat. The precious spirit herb and the blood crown of the black swamp boa which was also a 7th grade spirit beast, were all equally precious. However, Bu Fong didn't explain. He couldn't be bothered to either, because there was no need for him to explain so much to this group of people. Under the careful care of Lin Qinair, Xiao Qiyun finished the entire plate of fish meat. The surrounding Xiao family members watched with heartache and jealousy. Xiao Keqiang, in particular, was so jealous that his eyes were about to spit fire. Such a precious delicacy. Why wasn't he the one eating it? Xiao Qiyun was a little dizzy at this moment. After eating the entire fish, the medicinal effects and spirit energy finally brewed for a long time and began to explode within his body. He felt as if his entire body was bathed in a warm liquid. Within the liquid, there seemed to be tiny creatures surging into his body. Xiao Qiyun's face suddenly turned blood red, and his eyes were filled with blood. With a miserable howl, he felt as if his entire body was being pierced by thousands of steel needles. With a thud, Xiao Qiyun directly fell to the ground and curled up. The pain from his body constantly tormented his spirit, making him feel incomparably miserable. Xiao Qiyun's condition caused the faces of the Xiao family members to change drastically. Many of them widened their eyes when they saw his miserable state. The chopsticks in Lin Qinair's hand fell to the ground. She was at a loss. Seeing her husband in pain, her heart felt as if it was being cut by a knife. "Young Master Bu, what's going on? My husband, what happened to him?" Lin Qinair looked at Bu Fong with tearful eyes. Maybe this dish is poisoned, and second brother has worsened the poison after eating it." When Xiao Keqiang saw Xiao Qiyun's miserable state, a hint of delight flashed across his eyes. Then, his face took on a nervous and sorrowful expression. When the Xiao family members heard this, they immediately panicked. The way they looked at Bu Fong was no longer as friendly as before. Xiao Yinyu frowned when she saw the state of the Xiao family members. She was a little displeased. Bu Fong was very calm as he leaned against the chair. Xiao Qiyun's condition was within his expectations. It would be strange if he didn't show any symptoms after eating the Blood Crown intoxicating demonic fish. The Blood Crown intoxicating demonic fish was a combination of the flesh of a 7th grade demon beast, a 7th grade blood crown, and several kinds of precious spirit herbs. The spirit energy and spirit energy contained in the fish were extremely rich. The spirit energy and spirit energy were compressed within the fish and exploded after Xiao Qiyun ate it. A spirit energy bomb exploded within his body. If he didn't have any reaction, then he would really be in big trouble. As for the Xiao family members' attitude, Bu Fong didn't care. Perhaps it could be said that he didn't care about the Xiao family at all. Why should he care about their opinions? However, the gossiping Xiao Keqiang made Bu Fong feel a sense of disgust. He didn't have a good impression of him in the first place, and now he was incessantly fanning the flames. Even Bu Fong was displeased. Adding poison to poison? Why? Do you have a problem with that? Bu Fong ignored the tearful Lin Qinair. After all, they would be able to see the effects in a while. His gaze fell directly on Xiao Keqiang, causing the latter's body to tremble. What are you trying to do? This is the Xiao family. Don't you dare act recklessly." The flesh on Xiao Keqiang's face trembled. The guy in front of him was a terrifying existence that could kill a 7th grade demon beast. If he wanted to mess with him, he was truly afraid. "I don't like it when people question my dishes. Adding poison to poison, it makes me very uncomfortable," Bu Fong said calmly. Did I say something wrong? Look at my second brother. He's in even more pain than before." Xiao Keqiang's voice was a little fierce, but he also had some confidence in his heart because Xiao Keqiang's appearance was indeed more painful than before. The corner of Bu Fong's mouth twitched. He smiled coldly and patted Xiao by his stomach. He was too lazy to explain too much to Xiao Keqiang. He didn't need to. Xiao Keqiang was nothing. Strip him and throw him out. It's annoying to look at him, Bu Fong said calmly to Xiao Bai. Everyone in the Xiao family was stunned. Xiao Yinyu even smiled. "Owner Bu, you're being mischievous again." Xiao Bai's mechanical eyes flickered slightly. He glanced at Bu Fong, then said in a mechanical voice, "Troublemaker, you will be stripped as an example to others. What? What? Xiao Keqing watched in horror as the iron puppet approached him step by step. The hair on his body stood on end. He covered his chest with both hands and yelled incessantly. Who was Xiao Bai? Everyone in the Xiao family kept quiet out of fear. The scene of Xiao Bai beheading 5 Battle Emperor experts was still lingering in their minds. To fight against this god of death for Xiao Keqing. Xiao Keqing, do you think you're worthy? Rip. Under the dumbstruck gazes of everyone in the Xiao family, Xiao Bai grabbed Xiao Keqing's body and casually threw him out. Then, a clear and melodious sound reverberated in everyone's ears. A naked body spun 360 times in the air, then fiercely fell outside the kitchen, causing a large pile of dust to rise. You bastard! Xiao Keqing was furious. He stood up while covering his nether regions. His eyes were about to spit fire. However, Xiao Bai stood at the entrance of the kitchen. Its mechanical eyes flickered with a red light as it swept a glance at him. Xiao Keqing's entire body immediately stiffened. His anger was instantly extinguished, as if a basin of cold water had been poured over him. Without saying another word, he turned around and covered his nether regions. He gloomily ran away under the setting sun. Bufang was already used to this scene. How many people had been stripped naked by Xiao Bai? Bufang's gaze landed on Xiao Qiyun, who was struggling and howling miserably on the ground. His eyebrows slightly twitched, and a glint of light bloomed in his eyes. It's about time to start. In the next moment, waves of extremely dense stench seeped out of Xiao Qiyun's body. Gray-black particles rose from Xiao Qiyun's body. Chapter 266. The stench spread throughout the kitchen, forcing everyone to cover their noses. The smell was too pungent and unbearable. Bufang knitted his brows, waved his hand in front of his nose, and slowly walked out of the kitchen. Someone keep an eye on him. Once the toxins are expelled, he should be able to recover. The Xiao family members looked at each other. In the end, Lin Qinair and Xiao Yu stayed behind, while the others left the kitchen. Xiao Yanyu stayed by Bufang's side, bringing him along for a stroll in the woods of the Xiao residence. The setting sun gradually sank, casting a dim light. The shadows of the two were elongated, bringing with them a strange mood. When the sun completely set, the night sky was covered, and specks of starlight appeared around the 2 crescent moons. Bufang and Xiao Yanyu returned to the main hall of the Xiao family. Xiao Qiyun had already recovered completely. After taking a bath, he cleansed off the stench and toxins from his body. He looked extremely weak, his face was deathly pale, and there was not much color in his lips. It was obvious that the process of expelling the toxins had tormented him greatly. However, Lin Qinair and Xiao Yu wore smiles on their faces. The expressions of the Xiao family members were also much more relaxed. It was obvious that the poison in Xiao Qiyun's body had been completely expelled. Thank you, young Master Bu, for saving my life. Xiao Qiyun stood up from his seat. Although his body was still weak, he still cupped his hands toward Bufang, his face full of gratitude. Bufang waved his hand. From the looks of it, he had recovered. Although the toxins have been completely expelled, you can feel your weakness. Because you were poisoned too deeply, even though the poison has been removed, the side effects are still very obvious. Your cultivation level has declined, and it is inevitable that your body is weak, Bufang said calmly. Xiao Qiyun was silent. He originally had the cultivation level of a 6th grade Battle Emperor, but because of the detoxification this time, his cultivation level had fallen back to 5th grade Battle King. He was even weaker than before, and his body was even weaker. He would eat and nourish himself for a period of time to recover. It could be said that he had suffered a huge loss this time. He had gained nothing. Bufang didn't exchange too many pleasantries with the Xiao family. After saying a few words, he returned to the guest room arranged by the Xiao family. Today was a tiring day for him. After taking a shower, he lay down on the bed and slept soundly. Although it was a little excessive to say that he was mentally and physically exhausted, killing a Tier 7 Burst Dragon demonic fish and making an elixir cuisine was still quite tiring. It was especially tiring to kill the burst dragon demonic fish. This was the reason why Bu Fong didn't like to fight and kill. It was too tiring. The next day, at dawn, sunlight shone in through the window and onto the ground, giving off a slight warmth. Bu Fong got out of bed, stretched his body, and yawned. After washing up, he walked out of the room. The environment of the Shao family's garden was very good, and the air was especially fresh. The early morning sunlight shone through the gaps between the trees in the garden, like crushed golden light scattered on the ground. Strolling along the path paved with gravel in the garden, Bu Fong felt an unprecedented sense of relaxation in his body and mind. After strolling for a while, a figure slowly jogged toward his position from afar. Xiao Yinyu looked at the incomparably cold Bu Fong, who was standing under the speckles of sunlight, and was slightly taken aback. At this moment, Owner Bu gave off a strange aura that she had never seen before. However, she came here for official business, so she didn't stay for too long. Bu Fong was dragged by Xiao Yinyu to the Shao family's main hall. There weren't many people in the main hall early in the morning, but a unique fragrance was drifting in the air. Smelling this fragrance, Bu Fong's eyes slightly lit up. There was delicious food. Owner Bu, in order to repay you for saving her life, second aunt personally cooked and made pan-fried pork buns. Xiao Yinyu said. Bu Fong was taken aback for a moment. Then the corners of his mouth curled up. Interesting. Bu Fong strode into the main hall and sat down. Not long after, Lin Xinair came out with an exquisite plate of pan-fried pork buns. Her face was a little pale, and her lips were slightly trembling. Young Master Bu, this concubine knows that this pan-fried pork bun is nothing compared to the favor of saving my husband's life. However, consider it a token of my appreciation. I hope that this concubine's cooking will not disappoint young master. Lin Xinair's pale face revealed a smile. Pan-fried pork buns? Bu Fong's eyes lit up, and he nodded. A round plate was placed in front of him. The plate wasn't big, but there were a total of 4 pan-fried pork buns on it. Every pan-fried pork bun was fried until it was golden and tender, emitting a rich aroma. Dense steam diffused from the pan-fried pork bun. The golden appearance was exquisite, and the oil slowly seeped into it, emitting tiny bubbles. The pan-fried pork bun was a local delicacy of the southern city. Bu Fong had tasted a few kinds of pan-fried pork buns, and the taste was indeed not bad. The crispy skin was indeed delicious. However, to Bu Fong, it was merely not bad. He wondered how the pan-fried pork bun of the Bun Beauty, which was highly praised by many but never had the chance to taste. He hoped that it wouldn't disappoint him. Lin Xinair's body swayed slightly. After she put down the plate, she found a seat and sat down. She was slightly panting, and it seemed that she was very tired. Bu Fong gave her a quick glance, then withdrew his gaze. He picked up a pair of chopsticks and picked up a pan-fried pork bun. After sizing it up, he opened his mouth and took a bite. With one bite, the rich, fragrant, and scalding oil flowed out from the pan-fried pork bun and slid into his mouth, causing his whole body to tremble. The taste was naturally very good. The fragrance of the meat and vegetables was released perfectly, covering Bu Fong's taste buds. It made Bu Fong's eyes squint unconsciously, and a smile appeared on his face. The taste was indeed much better than the other pan-fried pork buns in the southern city. Moreover, after chewing for a while, Bu Fong carefully savored the taste. He discovered many differences. Lin Xinair's pan-fried pork bun contained spirit energy. Although the concentration was not very high, it was the kind that perfectly preserved the spirit energy of the ingredients. Because the ingredients used in this pan-fried pork bun were not precious, the spirit energy contained in the ingredients was not much. Basically, Lin Xinair made sure that there was no leakage of spirit energy. This was what amazed Bu Fong the most. To think that someone could make such a pan-fried pork bun. No wonder Lin Xinair's expression was so ugly. To perfectly preserve the spirit energy of the ingredients was not an easy task. Judging from Lin Xinair's appearance, she must have expended a lot of her mental energy. The true energy in her body was almost exhausted. After all, Lin Qiner's cultivation level was not high, and her mental energy was not strong either. In order to preserve the spirit energy, one had to communicate with the spirit energy in the ingredients. This was the so-called spirit resonance, and they had to reach the same frequency. To a person's mental energy, this was a huge burden. Because of his experience, Bufang was able to control the spirit energy with ease. His mental energy was also very strong, so he did not feel any strain. However, Lin Qiner was naturally having a hard time. This was also the reason why Xiao Qiyun did not allow Lin Qiner to make this pan-fried pork bun. Not bad. It was rare that Bufang did not make a vicious comment. Instead, he expressed his feelings with two simple words. It was not easy for Lin Qiner to make such a delicacy with her cultivation level. Bufang even admired her in his heart. This was because she had to go through countless times of training and trial and error to be able to make such a delicacy. Rustle. There seemed to be the sound of pages flipping in Bufang's mind. His eyes were slightly dazed. He sensed that there was another page of recipe in the recipe record book. On it was the detailed method of making the pan-fried pork bun. The corners of Bufang's mouth curled up. He happily ate a few more pan-fried pork bun. After finishing all the buns, he let out a long sigh. Lin Qiner smiled at Bufang. She was also delighted. To be able to see a smile on the face of someone who had tasted her food was the greatest happiness. The matter in the southern city had come to an end. He had also eaten the pan-fried pork bun. Bufang also understood that it was time to leave. His trip to the southern city could be considered a success. Although there were some unforeseen events, such as the black-robed men and the familiar poison pill, Bufang could not be bothered with them. Why should he care so much? What did these things have to do with him? Bufang did not linger in the Xiao family for long. After bidding farewell to Xiao Yinyu and the others, he brought Xiao Bai with him and slowly left the great southern city. Crossing the surging Dragon River, Bufang walked with his hands clasped behind his back. Xiao Bai followed closely behind him. Xiao Yinyu looked at Bufang's disappearing figure and felt a little disappointed. However, she quickly hid this disappointment, and her face once again revealed a cold expression. She could not leave the southern city for the time being. There were still many matters that needed to be resolved. For example, the reason why those mysterious people called her to the southern city, and so on. At the edge of the 10 Miles Pavilion in the southern city, specks of light flickered as the wind howled. Bufang's hair fluttered in the wind. Then, he took a step into the gale and disappeared. Chapter 267. Light Wind Empire, Imperial City. In the spacious main hall, Ji Qingxue sat silently. In his hand, he held a secret letter that was almost crumpled. His eyes were wide open and bloodshot. He stared fixedly at the letter, filled with disbelief. After a long while, like a taut bowstring suddenly loosening, Ji Qingxue collapsed on the dragon throne, as if all the strength in his body had been sucked out. The secret letter also floated powerlessly to the ground. Dead. Chief Steward Lien is dead. Ji Qingxue muttered with empty eyes. His face was full of bitterness. He regretted agreeing to let Chief Steward Lien capture Ji Qingyu. In the end, something like this happened. Chief Steward Lien was a 7th-grade warrior who oversaw the imperial city during the reign of Emperor Changfeng. With him around, the imperial palace had always been safe. He and Great General Xiaomeng were the two guardians of the imperial city. They were the sharp weapons that the empire used to intimidate the sections. But now, Chief Steward Lien, a 7th-grade battle saint, had fallen. Bang! Ji Qingxue punched the dragon throne. His face was full of frustration and anger. His eyes were bloodshot as he clenched his teeth. Damn it, Ji Qingyu. No matter what, Chief Steward Lien was a senior who watched us grow up. How could you do it? Lien Fu's death must have something to do with Ji Qingyu. Lien Fu was on his way to capture Ji Qingyu. When he was killed, someone discovered Ji Qingyu's whereabouts. Ji Qingyu's forces were already strong enough to kill a 7th-grade battle saint. Could it be that Ji Qingyu allied with some terrifying force? Back then, Ji Qingyu had allied with the Joyous Union sect and the White Bone Palace. Now, what force was he involved with to torment the Light Wind Empire? Lian Fu's death also gave Ji Qingxue a sense of crisis. This sense of crisis made his heart beat violently and rapidly. Reporting, "Your Majesty, General Xiao Meng requests an audience." A eunuch shouted outside the main hall. "Invite him in." Just as Ji Qingxue's voice faded, a burly figure slowly walked in from outside the main hall and stepped into the center of the main hall. Xiao Meng looked at Ji Qingxue's bloodshot eyes and sighed in his heart. Lian Fu's death was no small matter. The death of a 7th-grade battle saint was a huge blow to the empire, but compared to this news, "Your Majesty, this humble servant has received an urgent report. Hengyang County, Jinyang County, Shangshuan County, and many other large counties have been attacked by berserk spiritual beasts. There have already been many casualties. The western mysterious ancient city has also been attacked by a rank 7 spiritual beast, and there have also been casualties." At this moment, Ji Qingxue was still immersed in the sorrow of Lian Fu's death. When he heard this bad news, his head hurt even more. With so many big counties and big cities appearing at the same time, the entire Light Wind Empire was about to be thrown into chaos. Why did those spirit beasts go berserk? For no reason. Normally, humans and spirit beasts coexisted peacefully. Why were there so many chaotic incidents recently? Ji Qingxue would not believe that there was no mastermind behind all of this. Even though spring was approaching and many spirit beasts were in a period of rage, such a large-scale attack on human cities was rarely seen in the history of the Light Wind Empire. "General Xiao, send someone to investigate the situation. You must bring accurate information back to the Imperial City. Also, send an army to the other large cities to help suppress those spirit beasts." Ji Qingxue rubbed his temples and helplessly said. This was the only thing he could do at the moment. Xiao Meng nodded and gave Ji Qingxue a deep look. He turned around and walked out of the main hall. The corners of Ji Qingxue's mouth twitched. In the end, he raised his head and let out a sigh. Since ancient times, emperors have been full of worries. Everyone thought that this position was good and fought to sit on it. However, who knew how much pressure one had to bear while sitting on this position? Ji Qingxue suddenly missed the delicacies and fine wine in Onerbu's store. Eating delicacies and drinking fine wine was the most carefree time. When Bufang returned to the store, the howling gale gradually dissipated. The magic array also disappeared. Returning to his room, Bufang felt a sense of comfort. Xiaobai's clone had already disappeared. However, Bufang did not mind. Sniffing the moldy smell on his body, Bufang knitted his brows. He walked to the bathroom and took a hot shower. The steam was dense and dense. Bufang's hair was slightly damp. He changed into a new robe and walked out of the bathroom. He felt much more refreshed. Bufang combed his damp hair. He left the room and prepared to go downstairs. After leaving the store for so many days, he was somewhat concerned about the business situation of the store. Arriving downstairs, the sound of busyness resounded in the kitchen. The sound of chopping vegetables and the sound of frying could be heard incessantly. A rich aroma wafted in the kitchen and the store, causing one to involuntarily take in a deep breath. Not bad. The cooking skills of these two brats have improved a lot these days. Bufang nodded his head and a satisfied expression appeared on his face. Smelling the aroma wafting in the air, Bufang was able to judge the level of the two's cooking skills. He did not go to the kitchen. Instead, he turned and walked into the store. However, before he reached the store, he heard a somewhat disharmonious quarrel. Bufang immediately frowned. Under normal circumstances, quarrels would not occur in the store. This was because after the Five Stripes Path Understanding Fruit incident, there were not many people in the Imperial City who dared to cause trouble in the store. Perhaps the store's reputation was not considered prominent in the entire empire. However, in the Imperial City, basically all the influential officials would not be foolish enough to provoke it. This old man came all the way from the 100,000 mountain range to come here. And, you feed me these things? Although the taste is not bad, and the spirit energy content is also very abundant, but this is too different from the rumored delicacies of the Light Wind Imperial City store. A rough voice resounded, and the voice was mixed with a lot of dissatisfaction. I already said that the owner boo is not here. The dishes you're eating were made by the chef apprentices. Everyone knows this. Why are you so calculative? Ouyang Xiaoyi's voice was filled with dissatisfaction and anxiety. Bufang squinted his eyes. So, there was someone who came to complain about the taste of the dishes? However, Bufang did not express his opinion. Although Xiao Xiaolong and Yu Fu's cooking skills had not reached his level, the taste of the dishes and the amount of spirit energy contained in each dish had reached the level of value. Walking into the store, Bufang saw that there were many customers who were enjoying the delicacies. Ouyang Xiaoyi's back was facing Bufang, and she was arguing with a slightly plump old man with a white beard. That plump old man had a charmingly naive appearance, and it was hard to get angry at him. However, Ouyang Xiaoyi was still arguing with him. That old man was so angry that he laughed. Lass, you are so unreasonable. This old man was just ridiculing you. Why can't you understand what I'm saying? I'm just stating a fact. Although the taste of the dishes is not bad, there's a big difference between them and the rumors. Ouyang Xiaoyi pouted, and she was about to argue back. Nowadays, she was very protective of the store. However, before she could open her mouth, a calm and gentle voice rang out behind her. Xiaoyi, don't argue. The plump old man squinted his eyes, and he raised his head to look at Bufang. His charmingly naive face was filled with a rosy glow. Ouyang Xiaoyi was stunned, and then she turned around excitedly. She saw the slender figure of Bufang, and his hair was wet. Owner Bu, you're back. Ouyang Xiaoyi's eyes immediately lit up, and she excitedly ran a few steps forward. As if she had thought of something, her charming eyes suddenly widened, and she snorted at Bufang. You are still willing to come back. Ouyang Xiaoyi pouted in anger. The corners of Bufang's mouth gently curled up, and he walked over to pat Ouyang Xiaoyi's head. Then, his gaze turned and fell on the plump old man. Looking at the old man, Bufang's eyes narrowed. Even though he was a weakling, he was still a 6th-grade battle emperor. With his current level of cultivation, he could still sense the terrifying energy contained within the body of the old man in front of him. However, so what if it was terrifying? You said that the dish did not satisfy you? Bufang tilted his head, looked at the old man, and calmly asked. Chapter 268. Which dish did you say you were not satisfied with? Bufang's tone was very calm. His eyes fell on the slightly plump man. He did not have the slightest bit of arrogance, and simply asked the question as if it was a natural thing to do. The slightly plump elder was taken aback for a moment. Then, a smile blossomed on his face as he looked at Bufang. You're the owner boo of this store, right? I have long heard of your name. Now that I have met you today, you are indeed a young hero. I am just a chef, not a hero. Bufang waved his hands nonchalantly. This old man was quite amiable and did not seem to be here to cause trouble. Bufang pulled a chair and sat down facing the slightly plump elder. There were 3 dishes in front of the elder: egg-fried rice, Lee's fish, and sweet and sour ribs. All 3 dishes were eaten by Bufang. Half of the egg-fried rice was eaten, the Lee's fish was eaten a few times, and only 1 or 2 pieces of sweet and sour ribs were eaten. Hee, what a coincidence. This old man is also a chef. I heard that Owner Boo's dishes are very delicious, so I traveled thousands of miles to come here. I did not expect the dishes to be so unsatisfactory. I am a little disappointed, the old man said as he shook his head regretfully. Ouyang Xiaoyi, who was standing behind Bufang, curled her lips. She felt that this old man was here to cause trouble. To the surprise of the old man and Ouyang Xiaoyi, Bufang actually nodded his head seriously. True energy gathered in his hands and directly condensed into a pair of chopsticks. He picked up a piece of sweet and sour ribs and put it into his mouth. After chewing for a while, Bufang tightly furrowed his brows. There are indeed many flaws in this sweet and sour ribs, but one's culinary skills grow through learning. No one can make an absolutely delicious dish right from the start, right? Bu Fong said in a serious tone. He dispersed the true energy chopsticks and looked at the old man. The old man was slightly taken aback. Then, he charmingly laughed as his eyes narrowed into slits. Yes, what Ownerbu said makes sense. I was the one who was possessed. The corners of Bu Fong's mouth curled up slightly. I come from the 100,000 mountains. Ever since Lily Yi tasted the delicacies here, she kept muttering in my ears. I was annoyed by her muttering, so I came out to take a look at Owner Bu's culinary skills. At first, I was a little unconvinced, but after hearing what Owner Bu said, I've thought it through. The old man laughed heartily. Then, with a wave of his hand, an earthy yellow gourd appeared. Owner Bu, this is my collection. Can I exchange it for Owner Bu's cooking? The old man said to Bu Fong with a smile. He shook the khaki gourd in his hand, and the gourd immediately emitted the sound of liquid colliding with each other. Bu Fong was taken aback. He instinctively looked at the gourd in the old man's hand. The old man grinned and pulled the cork off the gourd. With a bang, a strong sour smell wafted out. This sour smell contained a peculiar sweetness that stirred one's heart. Bu Fong's originally calm heart suddenly trembled. He stared at the gourd, and his breathing quickened. The old man was very satisfied with Bu Fong's expression. Anyone who smelled his vinegar would not be able to remain calm. Little girl, go get a small plate. The old man looked at Ouyang Xiaoyi with a silly smile and said. Ouyang Xiaoyi glared at him, but she still turned around and walked to the window. She asked Xiaolong, who was in the kitchen, to bring a small plate over. Oh my, Owner Bu is back. After a while, Xiaolong and Yu Fu walked out of the kitchen. They looked at Bu Fong with excitement. Yu Fu looked a little nervous, while Xiaolong was very happy. Ouyang Xiaoyi handed the plate to the old man. She snorted and raised her nose. The old man laughed and ignored Ouyang Xiaoyi. He placed the plate on the table and focused on the gourd. He carefully poured the vinegar into the plate. Bu Fong's mind shrank. He stared at the mouth of the gourd. A dark red color with a hint of thick vinegar flowed out from the mouth of the gourd, accompanied by a peculiar spiritual energy fluctuation and a sour smell that instantly filled the air. Ouyang Xiaoyi and the others also smelled this smell. Their mouths turned sour, and their cheeks became numb. Their saliva secreted faster. Vinegar! Bu Fong's eyes lit up, and he took a deep breath. The sour smell drilled into his nostrils, causing the bridge of his nose to feel sore. However, he felt extremely delighted. If I'm not wrong, this should be a type of fruit vinegar. Bu Fong said. The old man poured a small plate of vinegar and put away the gourd. He plugged the top of the gourd, and with a shake of his hand, the gourd disappeared. That's right. Owner Bu has a good eye. This is the 8 spirit fruit vinegar that I carefully brewed. It's the pride of this old man. The old man waved the plate toward Bu Fong and pushed it in front of Bu Fong. 8 spirit fruit vinegar. Bu Fong's heart stirred. The 8 types of spirit fruits used to make this vinegar were probably not ordinary spirit fruits. Judging from the fluctuation of spirit energy and the rich sourness, it was probably made from 8 7th-grade spirit fruits. However, Bu Fong couldn't be sure. He carefully picked up the plate and brought it to his mouth. The sour smell immediately filled the air, along with a hint of sweetness. For a chef, vinegar, wine, sauce, and so on were all very important ingredients. A good vinegar might be able to add some charm to the dish, and a good wine could even make the dish more mellow. After sucking a small mouthful of the 8 spirit fruit vinegar, a wave of sourness instantly drilled into his mouth. That sourness spread in his mouth in an instant and filled his tongue, causing goosebumps to rise all over his body. However, after this sourness passed, a refreshing sweetness reverberated in his mouth. The spirit energy within the 8 spirit fruit vinegar was like a clear stream flowing through Bu Fong's body. He couldn't help but close his eyes to savor the flavor of the fruit vinegar. Beads of sweat appeared on Bu Fong's face. This was the sourness of the fruit vinegar. He couldn't help but sweat. Not bad. Good vinegar. Bufong opened his eyes and praised the taste of the vinegar for the second time. This was the first time he tasted such delicious fruit vinegar. Of course. This 8-spirit fruit vinegar is aged vinegar that this old man brewed for dozens of years. It was stored in vinegar barrels made from 8-spirit fruit trees. Every year, the vinegar in each barrel would swap places with each other and constantly nourish the vinegar with my own spirit energy. It would be hard for it not to be delicious. The old man was very pleased with himself. His beard twitched as he introduced the vinegar. He didn't care about the method being leaked. If one wanted to brew this vinegar, there were many ways to do it. Bufong was a little unsatisfied, but he didn't ask for too much. Fruit vinegar was something that could only be savored carefully. It wouldn't be good to have too much. As the sour and sweet taste lingered in his mouth, the corners of Bufong's mouth couldn't help but curl up. He stared at the old man, his eyes becoming brighter and brighter. The latter felt goosebumps all over his body. Didn't you want to taste my delicacies? Recently, I've been developing a new dish and have been lacking a good ingredient. When I tasted your 8-spirit fruit vinegar, I couldn't help but like it very much, Bufong slowly said. The fat old man's eyes instantly widened. What did Bufong mean by this? Did this bastard want this old man's fruit vinegar to cook dishes? Owner Bu, this old man's vinegar is very precious. It's already not easy for me to let you taste it once. I won't be providing it in bulk. He had brewed this vinegar for dozens of years and didn't have much left. How could he let Bufong use it to cook dishes? However, Bufong shook his head and stood up from his seat. He asked Fu to go to the kitchen and bring out another plate. Placing the plate in front of the old man, Bufong earnestly said, I don't need too much. I only need this plate. If the new dish doesn't suit your taste, or if it's a disgrace to your 8-spirit fruit vinegar, then I'm willing to personally cook all the dishes in this store for you to taste. Moreover, I won't charge any crystals. The old man was stunned. Ouyang Xiaoyi, Xiao Xiaolong, and Yu Fu, who were standing beside Bufong, also slightly opened their mouths. Their faces were filled with disbelief. Owner Bu, you too embarrassed. The old man's eyes lit up, and he immediately smiled. With a wave of his hand, the gourd appeared once again, and he poured some fruit vinegar into the plate. Embarrass my ass. Bufong received the plate of 8-spirit fruit vinegar. The corners of his mouth curled up, and he took a deep breath. Please wait a moment. Then Bufong turned around and went into the kitchen with the fruit vinegar. He was preparing to cook his new dish. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.